I met a Gypsy.
Think we good. Coty Schock, we in the building.
Yes, sir. Let's go.
I've been wanting to do this for a bit. We've been homies on the gram for a while, and man, I like the style. I like the Chaparal Honda. I like the style on the bike, and then the results started happening, and all of a sudden I'm like, damn, Coty Schock is he's one of the boys.
Yeah, no, we are one of the boys. It's been kind of like a long time coming, but it's things are just starting to happen. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I love what I do, and we're not done yet, so just be patient.
Hey, so before we get too far into it, this was not coordinated.
No.
The drip was not coordinated. We've just shown up, and look, you got the summer vibe going, I got the winter vibe going, and yeah, shout out to the homie Twitch.
Yeah, no, he always has us covered. I was like, you know what, this shirt just got released. Let's bust it out. And as soon as I walked in and saw you on the monitor, I was like, oh, no way.
That's so good. So how did that come about? Because I feel like with Twitch, he's just one of those guys that doesn't really matter if you're like winning races, doesn't really matter if you race at all. I feel like if you've got, okay, here's the requirements to be on the Twitch program: mad bike skills, dope as fuck person.
Yeah, no, honestly, if I'm being completely real, we got it kind of through my neighbor, Kenny Bell. Kenny lives like 6 houses up from us, and A-Ray obviously lives with him too. And he was like, yo, like, there's this kid Schock that I know he can do some stuff, and let's like put him on. So then Twitch was like, all right, yeah, have him come into the shop one day. So we came in, and obviously me being me, I'm like, holy shit, like this is Twitch. Like, this is the man, the myth, the legend. And it was so cool seeing like all the helmets on display, and like all like the bikes that he's saved from over the years, from freestyle to X Games, like all that. And then he was like, hey, like here's like a starter kit, and we'll just get you going. And then what the best part is he's only like a mile from where I live. So he was like, yo, just come in. Like, people hang out here all the time. And yeah, so after that kind of like, you know, broke the ice a little bit, kind of went in, and I started kind of working for him during Supercross, just like, you know, for fun. Like I wasn't getting paid, but I was just like, hey, like on my off days, I was like, hey, you guys need any help? So like I was sending out orders with them, and no, it's a good vibe. I mean, we would race on Saturday, we would fly home on Sunday. Tony, my mechanic, like best friend, Rumi, all that, he gives me off on Mondays, and I was like, boys, do you need help? And they would sometimes say yeah, and I'd go in, and yeah, it's a good time.
That's so cool, man. The coolest thing with Twitch too, right, is like he has his vibe. He's on his own shit. He's like the tattooed dude, the free ride guy, got a weed brand, and you're probably as far away from that as possible, like super clean cut, like East Coast kid, kind of nerdy. And like there's still a guy like Twitch still has a mad level of respect for you, even though you're like the complete opposite to him, you know? And I think that, not to make it a DBK ad, but it's like that's kind of what it is, right? It's like no matter the kind of like subsection of the culture that you're a part of, like dirt bike kid kind of goes over all of it. And it's like you are a good example of that within that brand.
Yeah, no, Twitch is, the easiest way to explain him is he's a family man. He is, if you're friends with him or if you respect him, he'll respect you. And that's what's so cool about Moto, and honestly like DBK itself, is like it doesn't matter how good you are. If you're a good dude, you're a good dude. Like, because at the end of the day, besides dirt bikes, we're all the same. We all wake up the same way. We all eat, get dressed the same way. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're all normal human beings. So Twitch sees that, and he's always just like carrying a really good vibe around him. and he keeps it loose and he keeps it funny. He simply just loves the sport. So no, it's cool with what he's doing, and yeah, I'm very fortunate to be in this position to be surrounded by them.
And so when you move out from the East Coast and you're I guess like a small fish in a big pond in a way until you kind of like carve out your name in the scene. What does it do for your confidence and just like, because I mean, dude, I've moved to California, like I've moved to Murrieta from Australia, and I've felt like that, you know. And Twitch is one of the guys that made me feel like that was a dope place to live, like him and Matto and that crew. So it's pretty important to have people that are super established in a town or a new place when you move from somewhere, to kind of like start to make it feel like it's yours. So it must be pretty cool to, you know, like you said, get put on by those guys.
Yeah, no, it's definitely awesome. I mean, I came from a really small town from the East Coast, and when I first came out here to California, like obviously like nobody knew me, and that's fine. I mean, I'm still to this day, I'm kind of shy, so I would never like just go up and like introduce myself, but I would just kind of like ride with them on the track at like, and then I'd probably talk to them like off the track. But no, like after like I got in like close with Kenny Bell, he introduced me to Twitch, and then Twitch introduced me to Bearman, and then it kind of just went down the line, like just Wanky, like all these dudes that are huge in our industry, they're all in the same place, and it definitely does make it feel like home now, because you're not just like an outsider, you're like in with the guys, and you realize that they're not like just pushing regular people to the side. Like they don't blow you off, they'll talk to you like a normal human being, and it's awesome. I love it out here now. This place has definitely opened a lot of opportunities for me, and yeah, no, it's good. Like this is where I needed to be, and I knew I had to make the decision to move out here, and it's all about making sacrifices in life. Like if you want to grow, you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Like that's just how it is.
Yeah, so you're 23, which is super young. So I'm literally 10 years older than you. And I moved to, which is crazy to think, but I moved to Murrieta, Temecula when I was probably like 22, I think. So sort of similar age to move over there and kind of like start fresh. And man, I guess it's everybody would say this, but I wish I knew so much more than I did, and I wish I was like open to growing up so much more than I did. But I mean, for a guy like you, you're so like disciplined and you're regimented and training, and you've got this goal. When you move to a place like Temecula and you're kind of, like I said, little fish, big pond, do you have like a lot of quick growing to do? And have you noticed that you've grown a lot and got more comfortable being uncomfortable, like you said, just in the short time you've been there? Yeah, no, it's I won't say that I was spoiled growing up, but it was pretty much like whatever I needed, my parents would do. And just like everyone in life, if you like, even if somebody goes to college, they learn real quick. Like the world is not the nicest place. Like you got to defend for yourself. Mm-hmm. And now coming out here, like it definitely taught me some stuff real quick, and not bad, but like it was an eye opener. And yeah, you have to make the best of it. Like you wake up, and however your day is going to go, that's on you, not anyone else. That's on you. Mm-hmm. And you decide to be happy or not. Like you don't have somebody like your parents like next to you saying, hey, don't worry about that, move on. Where when you're on your own, you're like, how do I handle this? So no, it definitely opens your eye quick, and yeah, it's life. It's rough sometimes. So what's been some of the challenges? Like what's some of the stuff that you kind of run into out there that you just like, and it's not even dirt bike shit, you know, just general life shit where you're like, fuck, this is tough.
No, it's okay. Like, let's be real. You growing up, you never had to worry about going, get like laundry detergent or going to get like toilet paper.
Amen.
Or like Like, know what I mean? Like that stuff, like, or going to get toothpaste or a toothbrush. You could just be like, write it down on the list for your mom and she'll go get it for you. And now it's like, you got to like plan that out now. You got to really plan out your day. And it's time management. I think that's one of the biggest things is time management, because I mean, like for me personally, you wake up early in the morning, eat breakfast, you go to the track, do what you got to do, come home, do your off the bike cardio or training, whatever it may be. And then you got to make time to make dinner and then get ready for the next day. So it's never ending. Like I think it's time management. That's been the biggest thing, and just trying to stay on top of ordinary life.
Yeah, man, that's like, to this day, that's still my biggest challenge as well, is, you know, I've kind of accepted a life of very little downtime. And I think that the younger version of me thought it was way more important to kind of chill a bit more, you know, like, no, you need a couple hours a day to just chill, like just watch TV, like you need that. And then you go through a few months where you're just fucking sending it, and then you realize, like, actually I don't need that downtime. And if you're enjoying your uptime, then, you know, what are you sort of needing a break from, kind of thing. But yeah, man, that's, even for me to this day, it's just still my biggest challenge, is just prioritizing all of the tasks that life demands. You know, like when I go home from this podcast, I have a mountain of washing.
That's laundry. Oh my gosh. Like growing up, you know, your parents might make you do your own, or they might do it for you, or it may be a mix of in between. But like, it's laundry and making dinner. Like, it's easy to go out throughout the day for breakfast. Like, that's basic. Lunch is basic. But dinner, if you want to have a good dinner, you really got to like go to the grocery store and buy what you need. And if you don't have that ingredient, you're kind of screwed. And yeah, like that's one thing for me, is always thinking ahead, like, what do I want for dinner? Because that's an important meal. It is.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
So did you get sucked into Old Town at all when you first moved out there?
No, so I originally was living in Torrance, so like LA area, with my buddy Connor Olson and Kenny Day, and like I was just sleeping on their couch, trying to just feel how California was, kind of practice for Supercross, all that, and then eventually my buddy Tony, that I live with now, he was living where I'm currently at. And it's so much like more central to all the tracks around here. Yeah. And even before Biden came in, gas was pretty expensive by the beach. It was like $4 a gallon. And I couldn't do it no more. Like, I was driving from LA to the Murrieta area 3 times a week in a van that got like 11 miles to a gallon. That's not fun. It's not fun. Like, it was like every other day, just swipe the card. And I was okay with that at first, because I'm like, oh, I'm in California, I'm living. And then you see your bank account get to a certain number, and you're like, oh, what do I do now? And you got to make a change. And fortunately, I was in a spot where I was able to make that change. And yeah, it's much easier now.
Yeah, dude. There's definitely some logistics that go into living in California. Like, that was one of the biggest things I noticed when I moved back to Australia, because I spent like nearly 8 years over there, and I pretty much like wasn't an adult in Australia. Like, I was a kid when I moved to America, and then I came home like semi an adult, and I was just like, fuck, you can actually do a lot of shit in a day in Australia, whereas in America, or like in California, sorry, you do one thing a day. Like, you plan, if you've got like if you're a business guy, it's like you can do one meeting somewhere, or if you're a dirt bike rider, you can go to one track, and that's it.
Yeah, like for instance, yesterday I went to Glen Helen, and it's usually like an hour drive. I saw traffic at a certain point, and I was like, dude, this is about to take like almost 2 hours Fortunately, like it wasn't that long, but like there has been times when an hour drive turns to 2 or maybe 3, and you never know what you're gonna get. Some days you'll wake up, go to the track, and there's no traffic, and then another day you wake up and it's like, bro, what are y'all doing? Like the gas is on the right, get off the brake. And of course, everyone in California loves the left lane for no reason.
Yeah, I feel you. I definitely don't miss that. I do miss a bunch of shit about America, though. To be fair, that was one of the things. So, like when I first moved over there, I was with the JDR team. So, like essentially, they were like a factory team. Essentially, like they might not have been the factory team, but they run like a factory team. And even me, dude, like I was filming for the team, so I was going to the track every day, and I was doing I was on the grind with the crew. And I didn't have to wash bikes. I didn't have to wash gear. I didn't have to do none of that. And I was fucking zorched every day from the grind.
Mentally.
So, and me, and even like, dude, the team owner, Jay, who's still to this day one of my best mates, we would drive home from the track being like, how the fuck do privateers do this?
Dude, I question it too. Because on the East Coast, the closest track to me was called Snake Creek, and that's where I grew up. Like that place is what made me, and it was only like 15 minutes away from me. And then the track closed, and we obviously had to find another spot. The closest track to me was 2 hours, and it was like a 2-hour radius. It was like you could go 2 hours west and go to Budds Creek, or go 2 hours north and hit up like Englishtown, New Jersey, or this track in Field of Dreams in Jersey as well, or there's a track in Pennsylvania called Pagoda. But yeah, it was like 2-hour direction, and obviously I was only able to ride on the weekends, but that was not fun. And it's your wallet don't like it either, I can tell you that.
Yeah, dude, definitely. When so I guess you just got to a point in your career, so you've got a pretty interesting career. So I guess for people that haven't heard of you, so you're a guy that is now running around the top 10 in the 450 class outdoors, not on a factory bike, and you've never had a factory ride, and you've come from like the bottom to just slowly working your way up. So you're in a unique position in the sport right now, in my opinion, because there's not that many guys on privateer bikes in the top 10 for starters. And then if they are, they're guys that are kind of like had rides and not had rides, and you know what I mean? Yeah. But you've literally come from the bottom and worked your way up. So I guess it'd be cool just to kind of like go through your career a little bit, because it's an unconventional one at this point.
Yeah, no, it's I always say this, everyone paints their own picture, and we all have a different path. But what's crazy with the sport is like we've had such a different path, but we all end up on the same gate every weekend. Yeah, and that's
so true, dude.
That's what I love about the sport. Everyone has their different opinion about it, but you know what? It's how much you want to have. It's how much you want it. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. And I was that guy in 2016. I went to Loretta's, and I got like 30th overall in Open Pro Sport.
Wow.
Now mind you, like I didn't even start the first moto because I had a bike issue in another class. But I went the following weekend to Unadilla to make my pro debut, and I qualified 36th, and 2 laps in I broke my back. Okay. And that was the same day that Jesse Nelson, second moto, caused a red flag.
Yep. Wow.
And yeah, that was a rough day. Not only seeing myself go through it, but for Jesse and like that outcome. But Jesse is crushing it to this day. Like, it's so awesome to see his mental health and what he's doing. And then, yeah, I kind of like regrouped. 2017 came out. I did 5 pro nationals, and I was a solid 24th and 25th place 250 rider all day. And I was like on the verge of like going to LCQs every weekend. That was me. And 2018 came, decided to go to the 450 class because we couldn't afford to build a 250 again. And I was that guy that qualified 25th into the mains, and I would get like 28th, 25th. And then we went to Budds Creek, which is my home track, and I finally scored my first ever pro points that day. And I went 19-20. And then 2019 came, switched brands, and that's when I finished. 2019 was the first year that I took moto seriously because I didn't have to go to school. Yeah, at the end of 2018, I did my 2 years of college for my CAD degree, and my parents was like, all right, you did what we asked you to, go chase your dream. I was like, okay. So 2019 was like full focus, and then that was kind of like a breakout year in a way for me. I started getting like 15th overall, and then I got a privateer power award, and then I started almost pulling hole shots, and it's kind of like setting the world on fire for myself, not everyone else, but for myself. And I was like, I can do this. Like, we're literally right there. And I was that kid that got excited when I saw a photo with me and Wilson, or me and Tomac, in the same photo. Like that's cool because you're up there. And then 2019 is when I moved to California that winter. And yeah, it kind of kept going from there. 2020 came. Supercross was rough for me. I made my first two mains, and that was cool. And then I had some decent rides in outdoors, but it wasn't what I was capable of. Like I knew what I could do, but I wasn't on the equipment to do it. And we ended up DNFing motos because bikes were breaking. And then the 21 Honda 450 came out, and that's when I got 10th overall at Paula. Like that's what really like jump started again for me. And I was like, you know what? I am that guy, and we're going to do this. So then I never had guidance growing up. My dad slapped me on the ass. Go have fun, bud. That's all I got. My parents never pushed me. They're like, depending on how much you want it, that's how far you'll get. I was like, okay. So I got Tony Archer. He former pro. Tony's a badass, hands down. Tony, his mental health is just through the roof. He's all about just like serving life with a purpose. Okay, because if you don't have a purpose, what's the point of doing anything? And Tony has Tony's pro career. He had some really good moments, and he was one of those guys where just not everything worked out. Like he was completely capable of doing it, but like some things just didn't line up, because in the sport you need some luck, and he had great luck at times, and he was crushing it, and then it was just like bam, that one little thing kind of set back. So Tony, when he came to be my mechanic, it's like a best friend relationship. So that was easy to start with. And he was like, look, with you, we need to calm you down. He was like, yeah, you're fast. Yeah, you have all the skill on a bike, but you move way too much. And I was like, okay. And I took it as an insult. He was like, no, like just wait and see what I can like form you. And he was like, because you have all the ingredients to do this. And I was like, okay. And we really just focused on slowing down my mind. And his dad was in the military, so Tony growing up has always lived like, do this, this, and this, and you'll get this, and everything is on time. And that's what Tony has brought into my program. And we don't worry about anybody else. We worry about myself and him and what we're doing that day. We go to the track with a plan, and we execute that plan, and then we call it a day. We don't care if other people are staying later in the day. because at the end of the day, what matters is me. And that's been the biggest thing for me this year, is just actually having guidance, sticking to a plan and doing it. And this is how far it's gotten me. And it's crazy because we're still continuing to excel. And I mean, the past 2 weeks I've been in boot camp because I was unhappy with how I rode. Like, I was happy with how I rode at Washougal, but I knew I could do more. And I got passed by a few guys that I felt I shouldn't have got passed by. I looked at Tony and I was almost like in tears because how angry I was. And I was like, we're going back into boot camp and we're doing this. And he was like, okay, well, we're doing that. And today I finished my 2 weeks of boot camp. And I'll tell you what, I am tired, but on the bike, I feel a lot stronger than what I started the season as. And yeah, we got some business to do because I'm not happy with, honestly, the results I've been getting. I've had a good few motos, but like I need a full day and to get that top 10 result because I know I can do it. And it's not easy by any means, but if you prepare yourself, you create your own luck. So that's what we're doing.
Dude, you're a fucking gangster. I love that shit.
No, and like I'm not here to like preach or like be inspirational, but it's just like you just got to keep it real with yourself. And that's who I surround myself with. I don't surround myself with people that are like, dude, you're so good this, you're so good at that, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't need you to tell me how good I am at something. Tell me something that I'm weak at and let me prove you wrong. And that's, yeah, just surround yourself with real people that look out for the best interest in you and you'll get far in life. Like that's just a proven fact. And I live by that, and I'm very thankful for how my parents raised me growing up. They're very, they're hard on me. That's for sure.
So have you, like, you've got some, first of all, I completely agree with everything that you're saying. Yeah. And I think it's awesome to be at your age and to have that level of insight into yourself. So when did you start thinking like this? Have you thought like this since you were a young kid? Because you come across like, to me, from the outside looking in as just like a fan of you, you come across as like a cool, fun dude that's like funny and also very serious. And I like that because I'm a fucking very serious person. And I don't know where that comes from, you know? So how long have you been thinking like that? Have you always kind of been a deep thinker about this type of shit, or is that something, did that come from your parents?
Me becoming a deep thinker, that's kind of been me growing up because it's a small world. It really is. Me growing up, I went to grade school, got my diploma, did all that. I went to college, did all that. And what fired me up the most was I was never able to be at a training facility. And I was never able to go to any of these amateur nationals. I did Loretta's once a year, and that was the only national I really ever did. I did Minios once because I got hurt before Loretta's. So, like, me being in school watching, like, Carson Mumford grind it out through the week, watching the Verb Moto videos and all this, I was like, dang, they're riding right now, and, like, I can't ride. So, like, that's always kind of, like, been like a burning spot in my heart because I was like, I know I can do it, and it's just like I can't get it yet. And here we are, like I said earlier, we all create our own path, and now Carson and I are teammates, and he's one hell of a teammate, and I love that dude. We're really good friends, and yeah, like, I'm not gonna say we made it, but like we're in the same position now. And honestly, me being on my own out here in California, like, you have time to think to yourself, and I've always thought about that, was just like, I know I can do it, and you're not going to stop me. And my dad, I have my dad's athleticism, but I have my mom's heart, which is kind of crazy because my mom's has a very soft heart, but for some reason I have a side of my dad in me that just like says almost like that F you type attitude, and you're not going to be in my way. And I'm very fortunate for that. And honestly, being around Tony, he has a very short fuse, and I've really starting to get that attitude lately. And it's been good for me because I can tend to be too nice on the track, and now it's like no, I won't clean you out, but I will definitely pressure you. Where to me, I've always just been like a wave the hand on, go ahead, and I'll try to get you later. But now it's like, no, I own that. That is me. Like, that's my spot, not yours.
That's so cool to hear that. You were the kid that was kind of like sitting there watching the videos from school, knowing that you kind of couldn't do it. I mean, I can personally relate to that. But more so in the fact that... Oh, sorry, my phone's going off. Hang on. Forgot to put that bad boy on silent.
Step ahead of you.
I can relate to that more in the sense of the fact that we actually like couldn't really have dirt bikes when we were kids for a really, really long time. And but all of our friends did. So I was the kid... I was only thinking about this yesterday, man, which is crazy that you bring it up. But I was the kid that would sleep over my friend's house and just like sit in their garage and like stare at their bikes and shit because I didn't have a bike. And then I'd get like a helmet, and then I'd just be like, can we ride the bikes around the backyard? Just like do anything to ride these bikes. And I don't know where that obsession came from. And it's like I'm 33 and I'm still riding a bike. And then it was this thing of like, all right, I've got to get a job so I can get a bike. And then I got a job at 13, and then I bought my own bike, and they were pieces of shit. And, like I kind of did suffer through that in a way. But fuck it, it made me go, and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to ever be pro because I didn't really seriously start riding until so late. But then I was like, dude, okay, how can I be around this in this capacity? And that's when I started filming. But it's cool to see what kind of can happen, I guess, when you don't have it laid out for you in that way, but there is like a real genuine and burning desire. And then if you don't let that desire become like a toxic thing, like a dark flame, you let it become like a bright flame, that can kind of propel you on for so long, because that desire has been just building and building and building. And I mean, you look at like, you're 23, so Dunge retired at 27, so like 4 years. That's crazy. And it's like in 4 years you're probably just going to be getting started, so I think that, and it's one of the things that I like about your story, and I think that people should hear stories like yours more, is that you can make a great life for yourself by just plugging away. Like, you don't have to be Carson Mumford on the Geico ride to end up on the same team as him, years down the track. It's super cool.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw my post from the other day about my Loretta's results. And people turned it into like a competition, but I was like, that's not the point. And I like Troy Dog off of Twitter actually posted like a screenshot of my results, and I was like, you know what? Let me put this on IG, because people think about Loretta's as like make it or break it. And as you can see from my photo, my best overall is 15th, and it's. Looking at my results, you would never think that I would end up here right now. And it's crazy, honestly, how it works. Like, it's how bad you want it. I know I already said that, but that's just the truth. And I made my own sacrifices. And another thing I want to point out is, like, I never had great equipment growing up. Like, my dad and my mom sacrificed a lot for me, tried to give me all the bikes I needed and like suspension, and we never really did motor work. Like, I've always been on a stock bike growing up, and I yeah, I was like, I know what I can do if I were to get my hands on like that type of suspension. And in 2019, I got my first ever A kit, and I was like, all right, it's time to go fast. Like we're Ricky Bobby out here. We're gonna lay it down. And that's when I started getting like 15th overalls. I was like, see, that's what I'm talking about. Like, I know I can do it, and I just need a little bit more. And no, and it's crazy. Like, just what suspension will do. And I knew that's what I was lacking in growing up. I was like, I had decent suspension growing up, like for like the local stuff, but the local stuff to the pro nationals, it ain't gonna cut it. And yeah, I was like, I needed to like make moves for myself and, you know, sacrifice things for myself. And that's kind of where we ended up. And like, yes, I'm not on a factory bike right now. And we still have a decent amount of like stock components, but like my suspension with Enzo, it's the best thing I've ever been on. And you see where it's landed me. Like, I know I can do more, and then having like XPR do the motors now, like I finally have the best.
Chad's a G, dude.
He is. That dude is a wizard.
He's a legitimate G.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, and
he fucking really
I'm
is.
on the best bike that I've ever been on. I don't know any better than what this is. And is there better out there? Maybe. I don't know. But you know what? We got this far with what we're on, and I know there's more to be done. So just be patient.
So you're giving me kind of a semi at the moment. You give me a semi at the moment because I got an email from UPS yesterday saying that my MX Tech suspension is on the way. So I'm literally gonna be running like my first ever A-kit suspension in a couple weeks.
Let's go.
So I got their National Shock, and then I got I can't remember what the forks are called, like Blackbird or something. They've got like full fork inserts, but it's all Kashima coated. It's all just like.
Oh yeah.
So
oh yeah.
You just got me excited when you said when you said how good like A-kit stuff is. So for me, that's never really ridden on something like that. What's the difference? Because so in my head, right, I think about my bike as anytime I crash, it's because I've made the wrong prediction of what's about to happen. So in my head, I'm like. So in my head, I'm like, all right, if I get this suspension that's really, really, really good and has all of the best components and has everything the best that we can make it, does that make my bike way more predictable? And hopefully in my head, this new level of predictability will stop me from having these crashes which are caused by me fucking up the prediction. Is that kind of in line with like how you think about factory suspension?
Yeah, I agree. So like my thing is like you can make stock suspension great, hands down. That's completely possible, but you need a lot of testing because every rider is different, and this rider might like this, but you might not like that. With me, with the whole like A kit, it's easiest way to explain it is like you have a lot more hold up. There's more cushion. If you mess up, you're okay. And that's what you just explained is like if you mess up, you're done. Where with like A kit and you actually like set it up right for you, you're allowed to mess up. It just won't go over the bars or like side to side. One of the prime examples I remember is Blue Diamond, Jason Lawrence, J Law. He was my man, right? There's a section where it's like a double and then a tabletop, and the tabletop was like maybe 40-50 feet, but he turned it into like 60-70, and you would see when he would scrub, launch it, his bike, especially like mine, to the normal person, if you OJ a jump, you get a rebound or like some type of kick, right? You don't drive forward, you just hit hard and you're done. J-Law's bike, he would OJ it, land, and keep driving. And it's like nothing ever fazed him. And I was like, that right there is real suspension. And that's what I feel like I can do now, is like I can just OJ something and be okay. You just keep driving forward and you move on to the next thing. But with like general stock stuff, you will go for a ride. You will feel it more in your body. That's the best explanation I can get you.
So what, like, have you gotten, so for me, I enjoy the process of, I've had like a real change in my love for motorcycles through the last 4 years of doing this podcast in terms of riding them.
Okay.
Like I was in the sport constantly and I was around the sport constantly. All my friends are in the sport. Like, so in terms of being in the sport, I was very in the sport and I have been my entire life. But the riding things kind of comes in waves. Like I compete in jiu-jitsu pretty seriously. So a lot of times like I'd give priority to my jiu-jitsu. A lot of times I'll be rocking up to the track completely fucked from jiu-jitsu. So I was doing like 3 or 4 laps. So I've had like a real big change though. And it's because of the podcast. Like there's so many, I just get inspired to ride by guys like you. And then I've started going to events and then we've been doing these races, and through the process of, you know, just I guess like getting that love back for the riding of the sport, I've just tried to get, and I like what you said before about, you were like, oh, that was like a win for me. Like I'm setting the world on fire in my own regard, right? And I fucking love that, dude, because that's really all that matters, right? Like,
yeah,
who gives a fuck who you're setting the world on fire in comparison to? Like, if you're setting the world on fire in your own life, in your own way, that's dope. That's a win.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm not super fast, but I'm getting better. And I can tell when I go to the track, I'm getting better. And I've like, man, I didn't use my rear brake, it felt like, for a year because I was trying to get used to riding on my toes. And I was like, well, I find it hard to use the back brake when I ride on my toes, so I guess I just won't use the back brake for a while. And it's like, you know, I'm like literally taking the process of getting better seriously. And suspension's kind of one of those things too, where like every time I get on a new bike, I put the clickers to stock and I measure the sag, and then I'll like make sure I'll get like the balance of the fork height right to where the front's not knifing, but I can get over the front. So it's like I'm kind of going through this process of like trying to be good at riding, good at testing, good, just not for any other reason than when I go to the track, like that's just my little space to do my shit. Yeah, I'm doing it for me. And man, the fun that I'm having and like the stoke that I've got for riding, and I find that that's why I'm sort of super excited about the suspension thing, because it's like, man, here's like that National Shock that MX Tech make has got like crazy levels of adjustment. Am I fast? No. Do I think it's cool to like know what high speed compression does?
Yeah.
Yes. So have you gone through a process of testing where you've like really tried to learn the bike? Because I watched some videos when I knew that you were coming on. There was a video of you at the Parla National, and you were talking to ML and Michael Lindsay, and he's the team owner, team manager, and he's asking you what you did to your own suspension, and there's like videos of you on the clickers. Yeah. So it's like, have you kind of adopted that same philosophy of like, I'm really gonna like learn my shit?
Yes, when I was doing it on my own and being like my own mechanic, yes, I was all about it because I wanted to know what was going on. Where I'm fortunate enough now to where I can be like, hey Tony, the bike's doing this, and he'll give me an option. Do you want to do this or this? And I'll be like, let's do that. And yeah, it's easier for me to be with Tony now about my suspension because he's a former pro. He gets it. I don't know how to explain a lot of things, but I can explain it in a way that he understands, and he's like, okay, let's do this because this is what the bike's doing. And he told me it's okay to say no if it works or it doesn't work. And suspension's kind of hard for me because like I said, I never really had the best suspension growing up. and it's always kind of been like from my dad, here's a set of suspension, put it on the bike, let's go racing. Okay, I don't know if it's good, I don't know if it's bad, I got a bike, and that's the most important part at the end of the day. So when I came on here with Tony would be asking me like, hey, like, is the bike doing this or this? And I'm just like, I didn't really pay attention to that. Like, I let me go back out and try to like really like feel the bike. And
yeah.
I'm a sensitive rider, but at the same time, I'm not. I think it's because I can easily adapt. Because growing up, there was a time, I think it was 2014, I'd go to a local race, I'd race my Super Mini, my 125, a 252 stroke, and a 250F.
That's so sick.
And I had to adapt, and it would literally take me like 2 turns, and I'd be like, okay, we're good. So with me, it kind of hurts me because I can adapt to anything really, but Tony told me like from the start, like, look, you need to like learn to be picky and just accept the fact that you're allowed to be picky now. You can tell me when something's not right. So that's been a thing, and I still like to be in tune with the suspension though. Back to what you're saying, because you got to know what's under you. I mean, I don't want to be on a bike that I don't know what's inside or like what's done, you know, like you got to be 100% on board with the bike, because you and the bike are a full package. You are what gets the job done. So yeah, no, I like to know what's done to the motor, what's done to the suspension, if there's any changes. I'm open to anything, but no, I definitely like being in tune with everything.
It's cool that you could really tell a big difference too between I guess like you're on a privateer bike now essentially, but you're on a fucking dope privateer
it
bike.
Is
like for anybody, like if I had that bike, that's about as legit as I could make a bike as a person. You know what I mean? So that's still a really competitive machine, especially in the 450 class. Like the 250 class, you probably cool to see Carson get a massive hole shot at Washougal. So that obviously shows, dude. But actually, you know what? Fuck, Chad's engines are as good as factory engines. Like realistically. So I don't know. Do you know Jackson Richardson?
I know that. Wait, yeah, yes I do. Yeah,
Aussie kid. So he's one of my best friends. So we grew up together. He's literally like my little brother. But Chad has been doing his engine since he was on a 60 in Australia. So Chad, I've known of him for years and years and years. And so he did all of Jatz's motors forever. And Jats was doing good in America in Supercross. You've probably raced him at times. And yeah, he was getting some legit starts. And then... Am I wrong in saying that Chad did the Penrite Honda engines as well?
I don't think so.
Maybe
I think those were.
I don't know for sure.
I think those were
like
twisted.
He does Moto Concepts. Maybe yeah, but he does Moto Concepts, and then your motors. So Chad's motors are definitely his race motors are definitely like at a factory kind of spec in terms of being able to pull hole shots.
Yeah, no, like in Supercross.
And they won a Daytona Supercross with Brayton.
Yeah, Team Brayton, let's go. But yes, the Chad's motors are awesome. I mean, I pulled 2 second place starts during Supercross, and then like the rest of them were like top 5, like plenty capable. And Chad's really good at fine tuning it, because he's not all about the horsepower number. He's about putting power to the ground.
Yeah.
So
what would be the difference then? What would be the difference then, like at this stage? What would you like? What could you see the level being between the bike that you're on now and a factory bike?
Knowledge.
Like, what would you want out of it, I guess? Or would you even know?
I don't know, because I've never been there. I wish I could answer that for you to know what a factory bike feels like and like what I'm on. I think honestly though, the biggest difference between our like semi privateer bike and like a full factory bike is just knowledge. Like, yes, we've done our testing and we know what works for us, but like when you're at a factory level, they got like guys like Trey Kennard, you know, like out there testing all the time and see what works and doesn't work. Me personally, I think that's the biggest thing is just knowledge. And then obviously you make your changes as you go, but yeah.
No, yeah, that's I guess it would be hard to know, but I mean from my end, like you look at the racing, you can just see, okay, so you can get a whole shot, so that obviously means straight line speed that's a pretty good measure there. And then like you said, you're using Enzo A-kit stuff, and I mean you can have A-kit suspension that works like shit. Just because it's A-kit doesn't mean it's going to be good.
Correct.
And you hear guys complain about factory bikes all the time. So yeah, it's obviously not like there is this huge kind of discrepancy. So with the team itself, I think it's pretty cool. And it seems like that team's in a unique position in the pits because big backing by Chaparral. Which obviously like they've had just an enormous impact on the industry over 40 50 years. You've got a guy like Michael Lindsay running that team. It's a 2-rider team with 2 really good guys, and the results have gotten better. It's just cool to see that sort of size and level of team. I feel like we don't really see those kind of come around and stay around a lot. And then if you do, you've got teams, but then they're running on like no parts, they really don't have that much support, and then they come in and they're out. So it seems like that Chaparral team is one that kind of has the ability to stick around and grow. How did that kind of come about with Michael Lindsay? And I don't know him at all. I've never spoke to him, but he seems like a really cool guy.
No, Michael's definitely a good dude. How it kind of got it brought about was I went to a media expo for Supercross in 2019, and Michael, like we were there taking photos for like St. Jude and stuff, that was like an honor to do that because that's badass.
Shout out Dunge.
Yeah, literally. And I walked in, I was there for a little while. I saw Michael coming in, obviously on the phone because he's always on the phone. And he hung up. He was like, hey, like a spot opened up on the team for 250 West Coast. Do you want to take it? And I was like, yeah. Like, just let me call like the people that were helping me out to get me out to California and do like this whole Supercross gig, and tell them and get the green light before I do anything, because loyalty is everything to me. I don't burn bridges. And he was like, okay. And I gave him a call later on that night. I was like, yeah, I'm in. Like, let's do this. And then that kind of how it started. And then what's funny is when I decided to like move down to like the Murrieta Temecula area, I was living with Tony on an air mattress for a while, and then ML found out that I was doing that, and he was like, why don't you just live with me? I have an open room. So I was living with ML for like 2 months, and then I started living with Tony because a room opened up there, and I was like, why not live with my mechanic, best friend, life coach, all that. Like, him and I have a really good vibe, and that's kind of how it opened a door. And then obviously Michael got more support for this year, and look where it took us, and this team's only going to build from here on out.
Yeah, man, it's super cool to see a team like that in the pits, and I know, like, just from watching all the stuff that Michael Lindsay's done, like he is a very smart dude, like a unique dude in Moto too, and it's kind of cool to see, I guess, a bit of youth behind running a team. It's not like a bad thing, but you see a lot of the team owners are older guys, very ingrained and set in their ways, and this is how it's done here. This is how we've always done it here. And I think that youth is a good thing at times, like if you get the right young dude that comes in with the right ideas. I mean, look at Tyler Keefe and what he's been able to do at Troy Lee Designs, like, and I know that there's a level of, I guess, like just relatability, like you can relate, a young guy can kind of relate to the things that a young guy is going through. And it's like, obviously a guy, let's say Roger DaCosta, it's like, yeah, obviously Roger DaCosta was young at one point in time, but he wasn't young with fucking Instagram, and he wasn't young with all, like the current shit that's going on. And there's like, the world's just a different place. And you get a guy that is, again, let's say Roger DaCosta, it's like he's really not going to be able to relate to most 23-year-old guys nowadays. And it's, you get a guy like Michael Lindsay, it's like he lives in the same kind of world that you do. So there's got to be some form of advantage. Yes, you lose out on the experience of a person like Roger DaCosta, but man, like that relatability that you could have with your riders, like that's got to be a bit of an asset.
No, it definitely is. Obviously, like we're both young, and it's been good for us, and you grow really quickly with one another. And Michael, I'll be honest, when he first did the team, things were a little on the wild side with getting things done, because the dude was trying to play every role for the team manager, do like the logistics, and then mechanic, and you just name it, like everything that it takes to like have a race team, he was doing. And that's not possible. That's why these factory teams have this person do this and this person do that, and everyone does their own thing and it runs smoothly. Where Michael, at first, it was like he was trying to do everything and things were getting scrambling, and he calmed down, and then we started getting things done. And then now having Tony on board with the team, and Pedro, with Carson's mechanic, and Keith from Texas that helps us out huge. Things are going more smoothly now. And I think building the race team for Michael definitely taught him a lot. And it's, we're always continuing to like be better. And as of right now for next year's plans, it's like we got a lot of good things going for us. And yeah, it's definitely cool. I mean, he can say he's the youngest team owner in the pits. Oh, and let me point out, you know who our truck driver is?
Who?
Michael Lindsay.
Oh, really? He drives the truck as well?
Oh, yeah. He's been driving the truck lately because with every team, like you try to budget out everything that you need. And we came to a point where like you can't really afford a truck driver. And ML was like, well, you know what? I'm going to go out. I'm going to get my permit and we're going to drive the truck. And he got his credentials and off we go. So he's our truck driver now. It's crazy, but yeah, some things you just got to take under your own wing and move forward.
Yeah, he's just doing what it takes. That's pretty dope. When it seems like you're probably privy to information around what it takes to actually run the team, and it sounds like you've got a fairly intimate knowledge of it. You probably understand like the dollars and stuff behind it, maybe more than another rider would. Is there like some kind of value, do you think, in like being your age, your stage of the career, in the kind of team that you're at? Because it's almost like the team that you're riding for is kind of the level that you're riding. Like it's like not a factory team. It's not a factory. You haven't got factory parts, but you got like the best shit that you can buy, and then you're the next best guy from the factory. So it's almost like the team and you are like in parallel.
Yeah, no, it's you got a really good point, because the team didn't start excelling until there's guidance. And I never started putting in results until I had guidance. So no, you got a point. Like if you think of it that way, it's like as a team is growing, I'm growing. And that's pretty badass to think about. Now you got my mind thinking.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of cool, dude. And I mean, there's got to be, like, that's got to take some pressure off you as a rider. Because, all right, let's say fucking Sexton breaks his collarbone, and then Honda calls up, you're the next best Honda dude, and Honda calls up and they say, hey, Coty, we need you to come in to fill in for Sexton. That's a fucking lot of pressure. Like, you ain't level with that team. Like the truck driver probably feels like he belongs under that rig more than you. Not to say that you wouldn't take that opportunity, but in terms of like the expectation versus, you know, so it's like that is a lot to deal with. So the fact that you've kind of got this environment that is just so on par with, it's like dating a chick that's a fucking multimillionaire and you don't make any money. You know what I mean? It's like you and the team are on like a really similar level. Like you can just, that's not a pressure that you have to worry about. And, you know, like you said, one of the big things that's helped your career is just learning how to worry about yourself only. So, I mean, the team environment that you're in probably plays into that. And you probably feel like a bit of ownership around that team, not in like a, you know, percentage points way. But the fact that like you're putting in the work, like you're seeing Michael Lindsay put in the work, like everyone's kind of grinding towards a common goal. Like it's definitely, I could see that being like a really cool thing to be a part of.
No, it definitely is. Like Michael definitely sacrificed a lot for this team, but Tony has sacrificed a lot because he's worked with Bogle and he worked with Brian Moreau and Pierce Brown. So like he has plenty of the credentials to work for a factory team. And he got offered to work at KTM after the whole like TLD gas thing was going on, because Tony was the newest one on board and he only had I think a 1-year contract and everyone else had a 2-year, so he kind of got cut. So Tony knows what it takes to be at that level, and Tony has taken a lot of responsibility for the team on getting us to where we are now. And like that preseason, Tony was in that semi every day, building it out and getting it ready for us. Like that man sacrificed a lot of his personal time just so that Carson and I could go racing. And still to this day, he does stuff for Carson and I. Like it's Michael like does his thing with the sponsors, but when it actually comes to like doing like the hard labor and making like runs to like Yoshimura or Enzo or W, like Tony takes it on board. He's like, look, I'll go here, I'll knock these out, and I'll get the guys set. No, it takes a lot, and Tony, I don't think a lot of people see what is involved with a team, because to the normal person, a mechanic is just a mechanic, right? Like that's their bike, they work on that, and that's all they got to do. Where with Tony right now, it's like, no, Tony is trying to help out with the logistics and trying to, obviously he builds my bikes and he'll take Carson's motors to and from XPR, like, because we live so close to XPR that it's easy for him. But still, it's the fact of going out of his way to help out Carson, you know? And like Pedro does what he has to do. That's not his
rider, technically.
No. And like Pedro, Carson mechanic, he does what Carson needs and everything's good there. But it's just like Tony doesn't know how to relax. And that's just that's him. Like he is a go. So with me personally being all around Tony all the time, I'm like, I need to go. And him and I, we kind of like, not, I'm going to say we vibe off
you
each other.
feed off each other?
Yeah. We just keep feeding off each other. And it's like, you want the team to be better? Well, I'm going to be better. And you just keep building. And it's definitely starting to take off. And it's like, you know what? We can do this. Like, we need a little bit more support to make things a little bit easier for everybody. But I mean, obviously the results are speaking for themselves, and there's no reason why we can't be like the next like Geico or anything, you know? Like, if you do everything right and you're smart with it, you can be that team. And that's where I feel like some teams in the past, they haven't made the greatest decisions. And having Tony, he sees it and he gets it, because he's been able to do a lot with like little to nothing. And that's how I am. Like, me personally, I'm not making any money being on this team right now. I think Michael pays my rent, and that's all I get. Besides that, I'm making AMA money. And you see that I can have a smile on my face. I'm loving life. I'm putting results. And would it be nice to make a lot more money? Yeah, maybe. But like, you can go through life with little to nothing and still enjoy it.
Oh, amen, bro. Amen, dude. And the thing is, to get off on a little bit of a tangent, I want to come back to the team stuff. But I mean, I kind of had this conversation with Johnny Hopper on the podcast. And, you know, like, there was like a bad taste in his mouth from being a guy that never made it, kind of thing. And it's just like, man, you've missed the goalposts. Like, you've shifted the goalposts from just purely getting the most out of the experience that you're having to, I need to be a factory rider, I need to be making money. You're responsible for moving your own goalposts. Like, there's no one saying that you have to be a factory rider, that you have to make millions of dollars out of racing dirt bike. Like, that's you that says that. That comes from internally. So you can do, I'm so glad you just said what you said, bro, because you're fucking 23 years old. You are getting to ride dirt bikes for a living. You're getting to do the best that you can each day. You're trying to get better. There's so much, like, that's what life kind of is, man. Like, you're just getting better every single day, and you're just doing it for yourself. Like, there's a level of personal fulfillment that comes with that is worth more than money. Because I know rich people that are unhappy as fuck. Yeah.
No, that's huge. Like, money is not everything, and you will find what's that saying? It's like, if you can't have me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, you know, like, do I have a lot right now? No. But like, obviously the goal is for everybody is to have a lot. And no, you just got to keep the American dream alive. Like, I feel like that's what this generation has lost, is the American dream. Like, it's what you put into it.
Man, yeah, I totally agree. And you know what? In my experience, like, I know a lot of rich people. I know a lot of famous people. I know a lot of successful people. That's just the nature of the business that I'm in. And all of those people got their money by just fucking doing their shit. And they just do it and do it and do it. And I mean, dude, like, I did this podcast for 3 years before I really made any money. And now I make money out of it. And it's like, I have a fucking amazing life. I do the exact same thing on the days now that I make money as I did on the days where I don't make money. It's the same fucking shit.
You didn't start it for money. That's the thing. You have a general passion for it, and the money will come. Like, that's with me. Like, I'm not really making anything, but one day it'll come. And you know what? When it does, cool. But that's not going to change me as a person. It's just something that I have. It's not me.
And the thing is, man, is like, let's say you don't make a bunch of money out of motocross and you don't get a factory ride, right? You have still spent years of your life bettering yourself as a person. Little by little, every time you do a 30-minute moto, you've proved to yourself that you can do something that's like super fucking difficult for an average human to do. And like, let's say you don't make that money. And dude, this is the crazy thing, is like Johnny Hopper, and that guy, I'd consider him my friend. So this is not in any way like I'm not talking shit on him. But like you look at him now,
No.
he's like casually says in the podcast, "Oh yeah, I've made 500 grand on crypto this year," and I'm like, "Fuck, dude, you would have never made that racing." And like the skills that you now have applied to make $500,000 in crypto, you learn from racing. You dickhead, this is working out for you.
Yeah, no, it's like what my dad always told me. He's like, pain is temporary, but your end result is forever, right? So like when you went to school, I don't know about you, but for me, I hated school. But you know what? You got dressed, you went to school, you grinded out those 12 years or whatever, and then whatever you did in college, and you learn what you can and can't do. And school's not about learning about for this test or that test. It's about time management and what you're able to do if you set your mind to it, right? And the same thing goes with moto. It's time management and how bad do you want it to succeed, right? So I feel like with life, you gotta just like kind of start from the bottom and build your way up, right? And it's crazy on where it can take you. It truly is.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, man. So I want to get back to that quote in a minute and we'll talk about that. But when you said before that like this team could be the next Geico and a little bit of extra support would help. So for people that are listening, what do you mean by a little bit more support? Like what are the things that kind of like make it just a tiny bit harder for you guys than you would like it to be? Like what's the bare minimum next level of support that you could get that would just like make shit easier? And what's some of the challenges?
If I'm being honest, it's just budget. We're working off of, I'm not even going to say a dollar amount for the budget because I don't know what it is. So I'm not going to put it out there. But you're only able to do so much with a certain size budget. And that's a fact. So with our team, our budget has allowed us to have 2 crazy good mechanics, obviously Michael, and then Keith to keep us going because he handles like our logistics and stuff, and then paying Carson and for me, and that's our crew. Like when we show up to the races, putting up the semi is sometimes Carson, depending on when he flies in, but I like to fly in early. So I always help set up the semi with Tony and Pedro and Michael. I think a bigger budget, we could have, a truck driver that takes care of the semi so that none of the mechanics or Michael or me at times have to like clean the semi, like it's all the little things that lead up to just making the team run smoother. I think having a truck driver, having a second guy for something goes bad in a moto, right? Like me at Southwick, there's nobody else to help Tony try to figure out what was wrong with my bike. It's just Tony. And sometimes a second hand is nice because he could be ripping apart something and Tony can take care of something else. And at the end of the day, like I can get back on that gate. Yeah, man, like I'm not going to sit here and like list things that I might be wrong about because I don't want to like please anybody, but I think it's just having a bigger budget, just something that we could get like 1 or 2 extra dudes and just make things roll just a little bit smoother. Do we get the job done now? Absolutely. Like you can make it work with this size budget, but for how long do you want to do that for? It's just like anything else in life. You don't always want to be there. You want to keep growing.
Yeah. No, that's so true, man. Like, I mean, for me, like on the podcast front, it was like before I had Ronan come on board and then obviously Jacob over there helping out. It's just like that you kind of get to a point where I was putting in ridiculous hours, like fucking ridiculous, like sleeping in my studio. Like this room right now, I used to put a mattress on the floor behind the table and I used to just sleepier because the videos just like I just couldn't get them done. Like I couldn't get shit done in time. Like the US is the biggest audience for the podcast, so I had to have videos ready to go up at like 4 a.m. Australian time. So it was just like, man, I was just run off my feet. Like I couldn't physically schedule enough shit and then do the pod. Like it was just gnarly, dude. And it's like, you can do it and you can do it with one person. So like what you're describing is like kind of a similar situation, you know? It's like, and you can see the potential, you know, you're like, man, if I had like an editor here and if I had like Jacob helping out in America, like we could do this, you know, like that's the process that you go through. But there's just a certain amount of time you got to eat shit in life to prove to people, you know, like, because in my head it's like I know this podcast can get 1 million views a month, like, but it might, what the fuck does that mean? It means nothing if something is just in your head, you know, like you've got to eat a certain amount of shit to go and prove it right.
No, you got to grind it out. That's what you just described. You got to grind it out, and things are able to be done, but it's just like, for how long? Like, how long do you see this? Like working for? And, you know, you see a lot of people in life, they start something and it's great, but it's only for a short period of time. It's because they never got the support, or they just didn't have the right connections to make it grow to what it is, or what it could be, I should say. And that's like exactly what you just explained, is like, you know, you grind out your hours, you put in your time, and you knew what this could be. And then you're like, okay, I can finally, you know, have a little bit of extra support, and then look where it took you. And that goes with the same thing with us. We started off very small budget last year, and then, you know, we got a little bit more support, and obviously our results got better this year. The bikes got better. Riders got better. The team itself just got better. And it's just like, okay, if it got that far in a 2-year span, imagine what it could be like, you know, 3 to 4 years down the road.
Have you, so I didn't know that you were riding for free, which is pretty gnarly. I mean, I guess I hadn't really thought of it. I guess I would have assumed you'd be kind of getting something. Obviously, if Michael's paying you rent, then that is something.
It is something.
Yeah. But have you do you think about ways that you can make money in the interim when you haven't got the support, or not the support, like when you're not getting like a paycheck from this? Because I mean, I've watched all the videos that Vital did on you, and yeah, like you're a cool motherfucker. Like I think that your writing is cool, your personality's cool, you're like different to what other guys are out there. Like, so do you think about like ways you could potentially make money?
I've thought about it. But it's not in the ways that I want to, you know, it's not, could I be making money right now? Yeah. But just to go that extra route and try to make that cash for what? Just to have things? Like, I'd rather, you know, make money while racing, because it's what I love to do. I get it. You need to have money to like survive and stuff, but I'm surviving off what I'm making right now, and I'm okay with it. Like it's all temporary, you know? Like I don't blame them for not wanting to pay me, or anybody else, because I never had the credentials to say Coty is worth this much. That's a fact. Coming into the season, people saw Carson Mumford. All respect. He was on Geico. Like, what do you expect? And then you see me, and they're like, oh, we have to wait and see. Well, the wait and see, it's like, okay, he can do it. So for next year, hopefully it's different, you know? Like, you gotta prove yourself. And I feel like I've proven myself, and I don't feel like that conversation will happen much longer. I think I'll be able to make some type of salary, and whatever I make, cool. Like it's just only going to keep building.
Man, it's honestly, like, I honestly cannot tell you how incredible that perspective is and how long-sighted that perspective is. Because, man, I'll be fucking honest with you. I was flat broke until probably October last year. Like, I was making enough money to pay for my bills, and when something broke in the studio or when I needed a new piece of equipment, I could, like, I was making enough money to, like, keep growing in myself and the business. But I had nothing, like, literally nothing left. And there were months where I'd get, like, super behind on rent. Luckily enough, like, my brother owns this building, so I was able to pretty much, like, fuck him over with with rent whenever I needed to, you know, like, he was like my overdraft. But dude, that's like, I was 32. Like, you know how much it fucking hurts your ego to be 32 years old and, like, not have money and not have things. Like, I didn't even own a fucking dirt bike until, I don't know, I paid for it at some point this year. I bought a dirt bike. And it's like, that level of, like, you got to suck it up, man. And, you know, that was me at 32. So to be younger in the position that you're in with, like, the level of foresight to be like, man, I'm doing fine. Like, I don't need things. I don't need stuff. I just need a bike. I need my motos. I need the shit that it takes to get better. And then let the chips fall when they may. Like, not many people have the confidence or the security in themselves to really commit to that life, man. Like a life of, like, uncertainty, and, you know, and to bet on yourself, dude. It's really, really, really cool.
Yeah, no, I believe I think the way I do because for Tony, you know, everyone has their own path, and Tony has been to that point in life where when he was racing pro, he was living in his van. Ramen noodles was the dinner, or peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Like, so Tony gets it, and with Tony, he's making money now, but he doesn't really need money to be happy. Like, I'm very fortunate to have that mindset, and that's who I am. Like, that's just, I see too many people get, you know, a certain dollar amount and they change. It's like, for what? For what? That's not you as a person. Like, yeah, you want to live this, like, lavish life and stuff, but that's not you. Because at the end of the day, when you go to bed, the real people will come out, you know?
Yeah, nah, man, 100%. Well, I think it's super cool, and yeah, for what it's worth, I think that, like, if you could just continue the trajectory, some really cool shit is gonna happen for you. So let's talk about the quote, pain is temporary, but the result is forever. You hear that shit. You hear so much shit when you're young, and your parents tell you so many little quotes and helpful anecdotes, and it's so hard for one to, like, really hit you and really stick to you, and then you can kind of, like, live a life in accordance to that. And I think that the pain is temporary, but the result is forever is something that is so relevant to a life in motocross. So, like, talk about that. When you first heard it, when did you hear it and it not connect? When did it really connect? When did you start living your life by that quote? And then how did your life change as a result of that?
I think it was Minio's 2015. I was in, I think, the college boy class or something, and, like, I knew I could have a chance to win it, and it just didn't happen. Went down the start, some other stuff I barely remember, but I remember coming off and I was so mad, but my dad was so happy with how I rode. Okay, and he's like, the way you feel right now is only gonna last so long. He's like, you might be over it within an hour, or by the time we get home, or the next month, whatever. He's like, it's just temporary. Don't let it affect the rest of your life. And I was like, okay. And then it was one of those things where I was just like, even in school, I'd be stressed the hell out about studying for this test, knowing the material that's going to be on it. And he would tell me, don't stress about it. He's like, it's what you make of it. He's like, it's just temporary. It's going to teach you something in the long run. I was like, okay. And I see that now. And when I started, doing the pro nationals and stuff, it came to me. He was like, you're going to suffer for 35 minutes. And then you have like you got to do it twice, obviously. He was like, but then you have 6 days to recover. Like that, like think about it. You have 100, it's like, what was it? 30, I'm trying to do math right now on my head. I can't do it. 70
like
minutes.
120, okay? 130 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, okay. Yeah. That you got to suffer. Then you have all these other hours to recover. Think of it that way. And it's like, okay, your body can do that. And that's been key lately. Even with me doing off the bike training, I hate it. I hate gym work. But I know I do it because I'm like, if I put in this work now, the result of me being on the bike tomorrow, I'll feel it. Like I'm stronger. And it just continues to grow. And I don't know why. That kind of just stuck to my head, but I think it's because it's something I could relate to the most.
Yeah. Just like, it makes sense. So like I said, I've been trying to get better at riding and I've been enjoying the process. I did my first ever 30-minute moto the other day. And I got one of those. I don't know if you've ever seen them. You're like, sucker. I don't know if you've ever seen those My Pitboard Pro things. They're not a sponsor for anyone. This is not a plug. But so I got one of those given to me by Joel Evans, he's an Aussie pro here. He brings them into the country, and I got 96 CR 250 baby. And I put that fucker on that. That was the only bike in my shed that was running. so I just filled that son of a bitch up with a full tank of gas. And the front brakes don't work that good. The rear brakes don't work that good. Suspension don't work that good. But I just put that bar pad on. And I sort of know my lap time around this one track. Like, I think it good if I'm in a ride, not trying to throw down a heater. Like a 142 is a pretty good time on my 350. And then so I got on this bike and I was like, all right, I'm gonna try and just do like 144s, like 2 seconds a lap off my 350 on a 96 Honda. Like I feel like that's acceptable. Just gonna put my bar pad on. I'm gonna go for 30 minutes and I'm just gonna try and be around the 144 mark. And then if I can't be around that mark, then I'm gonna be around the one fucking whatever I need to be to just get this 30-minute moto done. And man, I just like went out and I just clocked my laps and I just did my shit. I stalled a couple times because the rear brake lever's bent and like it catches on your boot sometimes, like you can't get off it. And but man, I did that 30-minute moto and I don't know why, but it just felt like such a gnarly accomplishment. I've never even really tried to do one before. But yeah, I kind of had not necessarily like that quote in mind, but I was just like, I'm just going to do it for 30 minutes. Like 30 minutes is going to go by whether I'm doing a moto or not. Like if I started a stopwatch now, like 30 minutes will happen. And then I just went out and did it.
Yeah, it's like that 30 minutes you went out, but you'll remember it forever. Because you're like, I remember this day where I and you talk about it forever. Like you did that. And that's that quote just can go any way, but it can go such a long way too.
Yeah. And so with, I guess the way that you've got to suffer, like, I wanted to do it because I wanted to kind of have like that level of respect for you guys. And obviously like I've been riding forever, but just the grind. So, and then I went and did a 20 after I got like all the skin come off my palm. So I couldn't really, I was getting a bit sketchy after that.
I don't know if the camera can see this, but it's disgusting. It's
gnarly, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got the sound. I don't know if you can see, but I had this little bad boy come in there.
Yep.
And, but yeah, like just to know what almost like what you guys are up against every day, and like the track that I rode wasn't super rough, and it's something I want to keep doing. Like I actually want to get good at doing 30s, but yeah, like what's the mindset to get through those motos, like to go out there and grind your way through the heat and 30s? Because I mean, dude, I noticed like I actually felt pretty good through the first one. Like I kind of got into like a pretty good flow and just did my laps. I ended up doing 142s as well, so like my lap times are actually like not that bad, for me. And but then the second one, when I went out and did the 20, like I could just feel, man, like zero concentration. Like I just didn't feel sharp. I felt like I didn't have arm pump. I felt all right, but like mentally I was just like super fucking fatigued. So it was interesting to kind of like ride the waves of doing those like long motos. So yeah, I guess what's it like for you guys to be doing them that often, and that to be like your standard, like every day you go to the track, like, you know, you got those 230s to do?
They definitely hurt, I will tell you that. Yes, it is very mentally draining because you know what's coming. It's like when you go to the doctor and you're getting like a shot or something, you know that needle's coming and you know what's gonna feel like. That's what it feels like for the motos. You're just like, am I ready for this? Well, you gotta be, because you don't have a choice. Like you're about to grind this out, and yeah, the rest will take over. But with me, how I get through it is like I know I'm willing to fight, so I don't really ever stress about me like physically. But mentally, it's like I like to do my motos in like increments. So I don't want to see like, oh, you have 20 minutes left. I want to see like the amount of laps. I'd rather know like the amount of laps rather than the time. Because then you can like separate it. Like, okay, I'm going to do like 2 lap sprint, 1 lap normal pace, you know? And you kind of just try to distract your mind off the clock going down from 30 minutes. And when you distract yourself, you tend to get things, they tend to feel like things go by faster. That's my biggest thing. I just think about other things, honestly, when I'm racing.
So what kind of stuff are you thinking about?
Dude, honestly, it could be anything. I could think about what I want for dinner that night. I don't know why, but like, it's just like, yeah, you're doing it, and it's just like, man, I can't wait to get off this track, take a drink of water. But like, you're in a mid battle, like that's just, it's kind of like it just comes second nature. But yeah, it's all on how you approach it, and I try to distract my mind on something else a little bit to like let things go by faster, even though it's not going by faster, but you think it is. So yeah, like for me, I'll think about anything during moto, but I try to do a little bit of like, not math, but I'm like, okay, if I'm running like a 215 and I got 10 laps left or whatever, you just multiply that and you're like, okay, like we got this amount of time left. And once you start thinking about that stuff, it kind of just like happens. I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's just, I don't ever just look at the clock ticking, because if you watch a clock ticking, it goes by forever.
Yeah, that's what I noticed when I was doing the second one. The first one was like the 30 was sweet. There was like a couple times where I like looked at it, and because I stalled it, I like looked down to see where I was at. So originally I was planning on doing 220s because we got a race coming up in a few weeks, and it's like a gnarly sand track. I think it's only like 12-minute motos, but it's so fucking rough. Like even the lines where you cut the track because it's too rough get rough. So I was just like, all right, I'm going to do 20s awesome. And I'm just going to I'm going to chuck on an extra 8 on top of this bitch to try and compensate. And then I like got to 20 and I was like, I reckon I could try and do 25. And then I sort of just played that game to run it up to 30. And then I was like, I'd just love to like tick one of these off. But the second one that I did, where I knew I was only going to be able to do a 20, man, I just looked at the clock. I feel like 11 minutes took 15 minutes. So from when it hit 11 minutes and 0 seconds to 11 minutes and 59 seconds, that felt like a 15-minute window. That 1 minute felt like 15. I was like, what the fuck is up with 11 minutes right now? And but I could not distract myself from it.
Yeah, no, I know that exact pain. So at the house we have a ski urge where like you have like 2 strings and you do like the ski motion. Dude, let me tell you what. I hate that machine. I know it's really good for you, but I hate it. And having that little monitor tell you like what your pace is and the time and what you got to get to. Oh, God, I have to like not look at the monitor. I'll just listen to music, like have my AirPods in, and I'll tell myself I'm going to listen to 2 whole songs and look at how much time I got left.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you're just skiing and you look at the monitor, you're like, oh, it's only been 10 seconds or oh, it's only been like a minute. You're like, man, I feel like I've been here forever. And then when you distract your mind and you just start like listening to music or something, time goes by quicker. I mean, it's kind of weird to think about, but it's wild.
Yeah, so I meditate twice a day. So I do essentially 2 10-minute motos a day of meditation. And the goal, the goal is a weird word to use, but in that 10 minutes, you're trying to notice when thoughts come into your mind, and then you get connected to those thoughts, and then you start thinking those thoughts. So like that's like I guess like the long and the short of it. So then you notice that you're thinking a thought, and then you go, fuck, I'm thinking a thought again. Then you look at what that thought is, and by the time you've kind of had that insight, the thought you were thinking is gone. And then you go, oh, it was just a thought. And then you kind of rest as like, oh, I don't need to think the thought. And then inevitably, seconds later, another thought comes. And then you fight the urge to get connected with that thought, but it's still a thought. And noticing the thought is a thought itself. So you're just constantly playing this game to try and get to a place where the mind lets go of getting attached to thoughts in general. And so I've had times where, so like my, like I said, 2 10-minute motos a day. That's like my standard practice. But then there's times where, and it's most of the time it's on the weekend, where I'll do like 30 minutes or I'll go into an hour float tank. And then there's times where I can be in an hour float tank and I feel like I've been in there for my entire life and 2 minutes all in the same time, like because you're just not thinking, and it's the thinking about something that I guess gives time context. So when I was doing so part of the reason why I sort of wanted to try and do some long motos is I wanted to try and apply that philosophy in meditation to my life, because I've kind of got this theory around why we kind of ride in a way, is that we experience no thought when we get into like that flow state, or when we hit a sick jump, or when like I don't know whether you've had motos or races where it was almost like an out of body experience, like there was no thinking, there was no thoughts, you were just like purely doing it, and then you fucking come off the track and then you like snap back to reality almost, and you're like, holy fuck, like I just did, like where did the time go, or I can't believe I just did a whole moto, or like, man, I felt like it wasn't even me riding that bike out there, I felt like it was somebody else riding the bike. Like you can have those kind of experiences. And like I was talking to Sam Hill, I'm not sure if you know mountain bikes at all, but he's like the GOAT of mountain biking. And he come in, he's an Australian dude, and he was winning these like downhill World Cups and World Championships by like 14 seconds, just like fucking people up. And he's when we were talking about this, yeah, he's a G, dude. We were talking about this, and he was like, man, I reckon I have had 8 races in my life where I didn't have one thought in my head, I didn't hear the crowd, I just had nothing. He's like, complete silence, completely gone until I crossed the finish line and I won the race by a crazy amount. And he's like, that happened to me like 8 times in my career. So I kind of relate that to that experience of like, you're just not thinking your thoughts. Your brain is just let go. It's fully absorbed in the task at hand. You're not thinking about your thoughts. You're not thinking about what I gotta have for dinner, or you're not trying to distract yourself, because the thought of trying to distract yourself is a thought that you would be trying to distract yourself from. So it's just like this dealing with this. Yeah, exactly. Like dealing with this paradox. So in these motos that I was doing, my strategy was every time I noticed that I was thinking about anything at all, I went, oh, that's a thought. And then just drop it completely and then just ride the bike. And there was, I had a friend pull in behind me, Mal. He's like legend. I ride with him all the time, and he is faster than me. And he pulled in behind me, and he was like right on my rear wheel, and I was oblivious. Like I knew he was there, but I didn't pay attention to the fact that he was there. And it was probably like 12 minutes where he was like just right there the whole time, and I just like grounded out. And then he come back when we come in. He was like, man, like that's actually impressive that you didn't change anything while we were riding. I was like, man, every time I thought that you were there, I just dropped the thought of you being there. I just did not connect to that deal, and I just tried to get into. I was essentially just trying to like force myself to get into the zone. So yeah, that's why I just was curious to kind of talk about what you think about during motos or whatever, because for me, man, that was like literally the thing that got me through. And then the second time when I went out, I was super tired to the point where I could not stop thinking. No matter how hard, I could not get into that zone.
Yeah. No, but you got a really good point, because there are times like when we're at the practice track, Tony is only worried about him and I, right? And he's like, when you're out there on that track, you don't gauge yourself off anyone else, because they're not doing our program today. Only you are. And when I'm out there on the track, I only think of myself, and things just naturally happen, right? I just flow. I don't think about time that much. But it's like when you get to a race, the time almost feels longer, because it's hard not to worry about who's in front of you or who's behind you and what they're thinking about doing. And yeah, you got a really good point. It's like if you can just focus on yourself, time just goes by quick. Like just let things happen as they go. And that's a really good point.
I'd almost argue that you shouldn't even focus on yourself. You should focus on literally nothing, because at the end of the day, it's
I know it's a thought.
Yeah. So like focusing on yourself is essentially the same as focusing on somebody else. Because it's like you've got to be connected to some kind of thought. So it's like I don't think the thought matters at all. I don't think the thought matters. What matters, whether it's yourself, somebody else, what you're having for dinner. I think the thing that matters is not thinking thoughts. So as soon as you notice any kind of thought, drop it. Don't think about anything. Because in my mind, it's like, if you've got the world champion of downhill racing, like they win races by hundreds of seconds, and it's just so fucking gnarly. And I grew up racing downhill, and I've had experience on one track called Slipperies, and it's this fucking like just straight vertical. It's in the rainforest in Cairns. It's always wet, so it's called Slipperies because it's such dense jungle. And there's just no dirt on this track. It's just fucking tree roots. And if you ever try and ride that track fast, man, it sucks yourself completely away, because you've got to concentrate so hard on the job that's in front of you. And it's just like, at that point, I mean, I had one run where I remember just being like, holy fuck. Like I was there for like split seconds where I was like, oh fuck, like you kind of come back to yourself a little bit, but everything else is just autopilot, dude. Like you just don't have enough time to really react. And I think that moto is the same. Like the real good guys just get out there and they just let their instinct take over, because like your body's gonna do what it's gonna do. Like you don't have to think about riding a motocross bike at this point.
Now you got me thinking about this whole thing. I agree.
Yeah, I'd be interested, dude. Like next time, text me next time you're doing motos and just try and like I don't want to fuck with your program, but like just to get through a 30, just like anytime there's a thought, just drop the fucking thing and see what happens.
I definitely will. I'll try that.
So with I want to talk a little bit about Tony. So because you've mentioned him a bunch, obviously it's a super important part of the program. Like, how did that first link up? Because I mean, honestly, that seems like really good luck to find a guy like him at the time that you needed.
Yeah, no, it's I believe everything happens for a reason. And growing up, so I'm from Delaware and Tony's from Maryland. So we were only ever like 2 hours away from each other. And I was that kid that would go to the fence line when he would be racing the A class, and I was cheering on Tony. I was always a Tony Archer fan. I idolized him. I still do. Like it's kind of crazy how, you know, life comes in circles, and now we're working together. Yeah, no, Tony's just that guy, and he always will be that guy, whether it's racing or not. Like he has what it takes, and everything that he learned, I believe, from racing, he's brought over into life in general, and he's a badass mechanic. Like, dude, I wish I could show you him working on a motorcycle. It's unreal. He's literally doing things without even looking, because he just knows like where his hands are on the bike, and he's just that. All right, we're gonna rewind for a second. We're down at Club MX when Traders and Club MX merged. They were CTR Motorsports, and there was a piece in the motor that kept going bad, and the bikes would only last for so long, and Tony was like the head mechanic. So every day he had like almost 14 motorcycles to kind of take care of, because it was like in rotation, right? I'm sitting there in a chair like this playing Mad Skills motocross, and I knew Tony had to like take the motor out, rebuild it, and put it back in. I'm not kidding you. It literally took an hour or two for him to do everything. By the time he ripped the motor out literally within like 20 minutes by himself. And then he takes the time, obviously, to like dissect the motor, what needs to be changed, what timed out, put it back to fresh. And the way that he assembles a bike, it's like everything has a purpose, right? So everything just goes in so smoothly. And yeah, that thing started up like that, and I was like, dude, have I really been here that long? Or like, you just get done that quick? And the man is just, he's good at what he does. And yeah, no, I definitely got lucky, because I tell people it's almost like I don't deserve Tony, because I know Tony can be a mechanic for, you know, like the Lawrence brothers, you know, or like a Webb or Muscan, like these top guys, right? Like, I know Tony is more than capable of being that, like, their guy. But at the same time, Tony and I have always been close growing up, and he knows my potential, and he obviously seen something in me, and he's only really on this team for me. That's why he took the job. He's like, if I get to work with Coty, I'm gonna be here for you. And I'm like, all right. So him and like you said earlier, him and I feed off each other, and it's just continuing to grow.
So you made a call to go back into boot camp. So what does that look like for you?
Everyone's boot camp's different. I mean, it's just a title because we know we're going to suffer. But for me, it was more gym work. And so like last week, Tony had me do longer motos, and I was like, more of them. So like, instead of just doing like 20s, you know, get through the day safe, it'd be like, okay, we're going to do like sprints, and then we're going to do 235s, go home, and you're going to hop on the ski for this amount of time or for this distance, and then you're gonna have a gym workout. And then I was on the bike 4 days a week, and the one day that I was off the bike, he was like, okay, you're gonna go for like a 3. Yeah, he was like, I'm gonna put you on a 3-mile run, and then you come back, and then you hop on for like a 5K ski, and then a gym workout. And yeah, it kind of just kept going. But he doesn't build a program so that it's gonna kill me, but it's definitely gonna make me suffer and definitely like develop me in the right way, because you see a lot of these guys get like Epstein-Barr, and it's because they put a lot of load on their body in such a short amount of time. They're like, oh, I got like a week to get ready. So then they do all this, and then their body can't take it. Where Tony is like, no, we're going to start from the bottom. So like, this is your base, and we're just going to continue to grow. And the workload that he had me do this week was about the same as last week, but I felt so much better this week.
Yeah.
In that short amount of time, because the way he sets the program up is like, yes, you have a certain amount of load on your body, but you're never going to get to like that point of like, you're going to die. It's like, keep this amount of load, and then we'll die off a little bit, and then bring it back up, and then die off a little bit. And today was the last day. And then next week I got 2 days on the bike to do. I got Monday and Wednesday, and then we go racing on Saturday. And I'm sure you've probably heard this saying, but like, race day should almost be like the easiest day of the week, because if you show up on race day, you've done the hard work already. You just got to go out and race. Like that's it. Like, you don't have to do anything extra. You literally prepared yourself for this. So, yeah, I did what I had to do, and we got 5 weeks ahead of us, so it's time to get to it.
Have you noticed that your body's changed, like physically?
Not really, honestly. 'Cause Tony doesn't really have me do like weights or anything. It's more just like body weight if I do anything. If anything, it's just more endurance. Physically, not really. No, I've never really had body fat growing up, so like, and it's hard for me. It's hard for me to lose, and it's hard for me to gain weight. Like, I've been, so I'm only 148 pounds, and I've been this weight for the past 2.5 years. So I don't really ever see a change, but I do feel a change in how I ride technique wise. 'Cause Tony is very, he's very like on me for being like head set on the crossbar pad. Like, you only got this amount of window and foot position and clutch and all that. So like, while I'm becoming more physically fit, I'm also becoming more of an efficient rider on the bike because of how he's changing me to ride. So I was like the Barsha, like Barsha gets away with how he rides because that's how that works for him, right? Yeah. But it's not necessarily what worked for me, and that's who I idolized growing up, was Barsha. So like, I do have times when I'm not afraid to like, just dump the clutch and hold it wide open and go throw a fat whip or scrub or not, and like just keep moving on. Where Tony now is like, you see how Roxon and Sexton ride? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, you know what? They're efficient. That's the way we're going to go. And I was like, okay. So yeah, I see more of a change with my body on the bike than off the bike to answer that question.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was actually going to ask you about Barsha. I think Barsha is one of the coolest people in our sport, and especially since he dropped BAM TV. That shit is as dope as a moto video vlog can get. And I'm so glad that he has, for whatever reason, decided that that's what he wants to do, and he wants to show people like the real version of him, and then obviously some stuff's clicked with Will, gets an overall, but it's super cool to see a guy that's like your age, that he's a guy that's like a few years older than you, but he's like the guy that you idolize. And I feel like we're kind of going to start to get into, so like for me, right, when I grew up, I was looking at like James and Ricky, obviously, and Chad. So that was my era, because they were like a few years older than me, essentially. Well, like more than a few. But and then like Villapoto and Dunge, they're a little bit younger than me, but I'm still like kind of watching them go pro, and that they were my guys. But it's cool that your generation has guys like Barsha, Tomac, Roxon, Wilson, and you know, so like you've idolized these guys, and now you're there like racing with those guys. It must be pretty cool.
No, it definitely is. So I actually rode with Barsha for the first time. It was in like it was 2009 when he first went pro. He was at the track called Blue Diamond, and that was one of my local tracks. And I hung out with Justin on and off the bike. Like at the track, he would literally try to take me out just because, and I thought it was awesome. And I was like, do it more. And then, you know, at the end of the day, like off the bike, we went like mini golfing and all this other stuff. And he's just a funny dude. And one thing that irritates me about the sport is if a dude makes a pass or something in a race, oh, he's an asshole or blah, blah, blah. No, it's just a racing incident, right? Off the bike, they're awesome. Like, I would have never have, like, okay, so Ferranda's, for prime example, his pass on Craig, right? People blew that out of proportion. Oh my God, like booing, all this. And I'm like, people would ask me like, how do you feel about it? I'm like, I love Dylan. And they're like, what? Are you crazy? I'm like, do you see him at the test track? They're like, no. I'm like, well, you know what? They watered the track one time, and I was going to go out, and he said, hey, they just got done watering. I'd wait a little bit to be safe. I was like, you know what? This dude just looked out for my health. He didn't have to do that. And who do I talk to the most on the line? And it's just a few words because nobody really talks to each other on the line. It's Barsha, AP, Ferrandas. And I've talked to Roxon just a little bit on the line. But besides that, and Hartrath, because he's like, he grew up in Jersey, so like him and I have been boys. But they're good people. And they just don't see that because of racing incidents. You know, like people blow things out of proportion. And I feel like if you really want to have an opinion on somebody, you need to get to know them as a person and not as a racer.
Yeah, man, 100%. And for whatever reason, dude, I am so pumped to be living in a time where a guy like Justin Barsha is down to rip his fucking team shirt off in every single video and put that shit out on the internet. I'm so down to live in a time where AP is fist pumping for the whole shot at Red Bud, or was it Bud's Creek? And it's like, dude, the time of the time of like shutting riders down and, you know, like shitting on riders for having a personality is officially over. It is now a free-for-all as to who can be themselves the most. And it's like, I mean, I can't speak on why Barsha didn't decide to do this sooner, but it's like, obviously he didn't feel okay to be himself. And you know how fucking much that must suck to be making millions of dollars a year doing the thing that you love, but you've got to put your personality in a box.
Yeah. No, and this generation, people don't want that. People want personality, like, because yes, your results like give you some type of value, but you being you is the best value. And I think people are finally starting to see that, and it's like, it's moto. Let us be us. Like, this is America. Let us be free. you know? That's how I feel.
Nah, man, amen to that. And the crazy part of it too, dude, is fucking Barsha starts winning.
Yeah, Barsha, that dude's an animal. I'll tell you what, Redbud, when people have their opinion, I say I got the whole shot because I did cross the white line first, but I don't know where the transponder line was. But I'll tell you what, me being behind Barsha, like that first lap, sending it, and I'm like, mad respect, because he does stuff on a bike that nobody else can do. And so does Ferrandis and Roxon. Like, they all have their specialty. But Barsha has that hangout style, and I'm just like, dude, that is badass. Like, I would love to do that. Like, no, Barsha's just a badass. That's hands down.
So, all right, I would love for you to try and expand on that. I mean, it's probably like hard to expand on it exactly. But when you say that, like, all right, you're behind Barsha for the first lap of Redbud and you're watching what he's doing, what are you seeing?
Oh, dude, it's a rooster tail everywhere. It's not even straight. It's just bam, bam, like just right, left, kind of straight, bike sideways, rev limiter, clutch. Like that's how he has fun. That's him. And then you get behind somebody like Roxon, you barely ever hear his motorcycle. It's crazy. And then you got Tomac, where he will drop a gear down, dump the clutch, and he's just wide open. And it's wild. Yeah, being by Barsha, me personally, I'm like, I want no parts of it. Like, you do you, I'm gonna do me, and we'll just move on.
It must be. Does it help your riding though, or like does it help your racing? Like, as a guy that is, you're working your way up to that position. Like you said, you're a fucking 25th place guy for most of your career to this point. So it's like you're not even really getting to see those motherfuckers. Like you're only seeing them when they lap you. But now you're actually getting to like be behind guys for laps and actually getting to learn from those guys. Does that shit make a difference?
It does. It really does, because when you think you hit something fast, they hit it faster, and it's like, oh, like that's possible. And then you do it and you're like, what have I been doing all these years?
And what about like lines and stuff like that?
Their line choice, I'm not gonna say that I'm great at line choice, but I feel like I have a general idea, and we tend to kind of all have the same line choice. It's kind of just what you do over the braking bumps. Some just throw it in and the bike does the work, or some people like Roxon or Muscan, they finesse. They'll hit this braking bump and they'll shoot across and then land in another one and then keep shooting across, and that's what works for them. But yeah, sometimes line choice can get wild, because if we all want to hit the same line, it's only good for like 3 or 4 riders, and then the rest of the field's like, I don't know where to go.
Yeah.
But no, it is crazy, because there was Washougal. I was behind AP on the first lap of the first moto, and I don't think the camera caught this, but he hit the outside berm, and I was like, you know what? AP's going there, I'm going there. And he hit the berm, and we both sunk in. But his bike started climbing over the wall, and him and the bike got separated, and I started to get separated, and I stopped like almost in the turn so I didn't fall, because I saw what happened to AP. So it is crazy to see like our line choices, because one, you might think it's good because they go there, but it's not always good. I will say, being like around Roxon, and it's not even laps, like it's just a few turns with him. He is so patient with his turns. Like watching him, like he might look like he like like throws it in there, but everything he does has a purpose. And you never hear his motorcycle. It's always in the meat of the power. And it's crazy with how he does things, because it's one motion. It's just in, out, and gone. Where like other people, they'll slam, fix it, and then go. It's the Euro riders definitely. Those are the people that I kind of like. I'm not gonna say look up to, but I pay attention, because I'm like, there's a reason why they're doing that. And that's what's cool with like pro motocross is we have all types of countries line up on the gate, and you can pick on who you want to pay attention to. So yeah, line choices, it's hard, because you gotta pick out what works for you, but you gotta pick out why. Like, you can't just throw it in there. You gotta know why. So,
are you, when you're watching guys like Kenny and Marv and Dylan, are you trying to, when you like go back, say you're around Kenny for a few turns and you really get to like kind of watch some shit that Kenny's doing, are you then trying to like go back through the week and implement some of that stuff that he's doing, or?
Yeah, no, it's so being here in California, like I used to see Ferranda's a lot, but now that Star has gone to Florida. So when Kenny was out here just doing like suspension testing, I would watch them, and they all kind of take similar lines, but it's just how they do it. Like with Marv, like he'll put his foot out, but with Kenny, he'll keep his feet on the pegs. And then with Marv, like he'll clutch it in one spot, and then Kenny, he just lugs the motor. But yet their lap times are so identical, and it's like, well, what's better? And it's just, with moto, everybody's style is different. So he kind of just got to like nitpick and try to make what worked for you. No, it's hard. That's what's so crazy about the sport, is there's no like right way, but there's definitely like a wrong way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's so true.
Yeah.
So when you're when I look at you ride, I see a dude that rides a bike really fucking good. And you've got the, like, you can whip, you can scrub, you've got like the flowy sort of style, but then you've also got, like the Barsha Sendi sort of style. How much are you working on technique as a rider, like on a daily basis?
Every day. And it's because I've always had that hangout style, but Tony has been trying to like reel me back in and make everything into one motion. So there are points on the track where it's kind of beneficial to let it hang out a little bit, because I know how to do that. But then there's also points where you can't do that, because you're just going to risk yourself at putting yourself in danger, and you have to be smooth. So I feel like lately I've been getting bits and pieces from like everyone on how they do things, and obviously with Tony, and I kind of just like made it into my own thing, and it's just it's a work in progress. But I do appreciate you for saying that, because I watch myself now and I'm like, I don't really have any style from what I used to. But to other people, they're like, dude, like you flow. And I'm like, I don't know, because I know me from me, but I don't know me from like a third person point of view, you know? Yeah. No, I mean, I definitely. So because of jiu-jitsu, like I never really thought about motocross as like technical. Like I sort of knew like, you put your foot out and you do this, but until I started doing jiu-jitsu and realizing the intricacy that goes into a technique. So like for me, when I do competitions, like one of the things that I win with constantly is a triangle choke. And it's like you can teach somebody on day one
what a triangle choke is. Like I literally did learn it my first day of jiu-jitsu, and then you can finish it and you're like squeezing your fucking legs, and there's just like you're like pulling down the person's head, and there is all this like you're forcing this technique, right? And then like 4 years down the road, I can do a triangle choke with zero effort. Like I can choke people without even closing my legs. I can, like, the intricacies, like I know the type of difference that the angle of my hips makes. I know the way that I can control somebody's posture. I know the way that people can escape. I know the way to change that technique to another technique, and then change, like, the intricacy and the detail that I now understand. And guess what? In 4 years' time, I'm going to probably be that level again. Like there's still so much shit that I would not know about a triangle choke. So for me, when I was like, I went, and I talk about it all the time, but I went and did a trip riding with Ben Townley. I think he's probably one of the best moto coaches in the world. And
he's a badass.
Dude, it's insane. Shout out to Method Moto. He just like released his own coaching website. So if you're listening to this and you want to check out some of BT's stuff, methodmoto.com. But I went there, and that's when he was like balls of the feet, and then he was like your arms are super stiff, like you got to unlock your elbow, and he said all this stuff, which was like day one triangle choke shit, you know. And I was like, oh, okay. But because of like the experience of going through the process of 4 years of like really working on jiu-jitsu, I was like, oh, I kind of get this. Like I get that he could say right on the balls of your feet, but that's like the ground floor of a skyscraper. You know, you're like, you've just walked in the lobby, and now you've got to take the stairs, and you've got to walk up 100 sets of stairs. And on every fucking new flight of stairs that you go up, every floor, there's like more details, there's more intricacy. And that's what I've sort of tried to, I guess, like apply to moto. And I've found that I enjoy riding so much more now when I'm just trying to work on these like small details and try to understand the positions. Because in my head, when you could like freeze a photo of Roxon or Chase Sexton at any point. I actually did. I don't know if you remember seeing on my story, but when Chase Sexton got the whole shot at Washougal, I think it was the first moto got the whole shot, and there was like I just paused the story, and then you could like take away all the bikes that were around him. That motherfucker had literally perfect technique. Like elbows up, back straight, knees back, balls with feet, head was over the crossbar, eyes looked like...
It's so frustrating.
And that's... Dude, right? But that's at the start of a fucking 35-minute moto with the best dudes in the world. And he is so committed to his technique that it's like ingrained at this point, you know? And it's sort of... You freeze a position. This is my breakdown of technique, right? Mm-hmm. There's the motorcycle is in a position. There is a correct body position to coincide with that bike position. So if you're standing going down a rough, fast straightaway, pause the bike, and then you should be able to tweak the rider to the perfect position to match what that bike is doing. You've got a rut, the bike's leaned over, there's a perfect position that the body should be in. So for every position that you are on the track, there is a correct position that your body should be in that matches up with the bike. And then you're going to feel like the balance point will be perfect, like all the geometry of the bike will work, the suspension of the bike will work. So really, all we're doing in motocross and supercross is we're just chasing positions around. The bike's moving, and we're trying to move on that bike to be in the right position at the right time. That's all technique is. My head now, you know? So it's like, if you can break technique down into that one simple sentence of like, perfect technique is being in the correct position on the motorcycle at the required time. And then when you get real fucking good at it, you can just anticipate where you need to be on the bike. So yeah, my whole view on technique has changed as a result of spending that time with BT, and then I guess that like experience of like, because in jiu-jitsu all you have is technique. So, whereas in moto, like I never really applied it in the same way.
Yeah, like with your jiu-jitsu, it's like your technique makes you more efficient, right? Because if you try to do something and you're not doing it the right way, you're gonna blow like your body
100%.
and you're just gonna get tired like that. But if you do it right, it's like, that was it. Like, and same thing with moto. It's like, you could do all this extra stuff and you'll be worn out, or you take the time to learn how to do it right, and you're like, same thing. It's like, okay, we're done. Like that's what it is. Watching Chase, it's very frustrating. And it's not just for me. It's for everybody. Because every photo and video you see, it's just a perfect posture. It's like, wow. Like, I don't know how somebody can be like that perfect, but props to him.
Yeah, well, what's funny too is that I kind of always had this idea in my head that somebody was just like, if you had good style on a bike, you were born with good style on a bike. If you got bad style on a bike, you will have bad style on a bike, you will die with bad style on a bike. Like, that's not something you can fix. But then what I've realized, that ain't fucking true.
No, it's not true. But have you ever seen photos of Sexton on a Super Mini?
Nah.
You should, because I think he posted one a while ago, or some like media source put it out there, but literally nothing's changed. He's literally had that style from Super Minis, and it's just now on a big bike, and it just, people pay attention to it more. But the kid's had it for years.
So I've got my own theory around that, right? So for me, as a guy that I would say I'm not talented at riding a dirt bike. So in my mind, what talent is the ability to be in the correct position naturally without coaching.
I can agree with that.
So I think
that's how the sport works. Like, some kids are just naturally good at moto and they don't really have to put in the extra work, and they go super fast and they put in the results. And then you have other guys that things don't really come naturally to them, so they work their butt off to get to that same position that this dude that had it naturally is already there. It's crazy how it works. It truly is.
Yeah, and I think I definitely was of the opinion that it's something that you really couldn't change. But over the last 2 years since I was at Townley's, I've changed my riding style. Like, I look completely different. Like, night and day different. I'm still not super fast, but in terms of like my style and technique on a bike, that actually has changed. And the thing with Chase, right? So I'm a super fan. Like, I think he's a real cool person. And B, the way he rides is just immaculate. But I remember he was actually supposed to do the podcast, and then he had to go to Santa Barbara, so like it just didn't link up. But I was doing my research, like going through the archives and going way back in his Instagram, and man, there's so many videos on his Instagram from when he was like young, where he's just doing figure eight tracks, and the caption's like, just spent 2 hours on a figure eight, and like he'd do these drills, and so this is a thing that he cultivated. And so much of what you attribute to talent is just this end result, and you're not seeing the real work that a guy like Chase Sexton would have done in his life. Like, and I mean, I'm being friends with Chad would say that he used to ride. So he'd ride from his house with a 20-litre fuel drum on the lap of his YZ80 or RM80 or whatever it was. And he rode to the track by himself, and he didn't come home until that fuel was empty, and he only had enough fuel in his tank to make it back to his house. And it's like, that was every damn day. And to go back to me doing that 30-minute moto, like, I actually feel like I got better at riding in that 30-minute moto purely because I just had a lot of time on the track and I could figure some shit out. And like, so imagine in my head, like when I come off the track, I was like, fuck me. If I did that from when I was 12, imagine how much more shit I could have learned about riding a fucking motorcycle.
That's so true. That's so true, because that's what I think about now. Like, everything I'm learning now, I'm like, man, what if I had that like back when I was on Super Minis? Where would I be at now? But you can't think like that. Like, we can live in a world where it's always like, what if, what if? But I believe everything happens for a reason, and you're where you're at for a reason. And some things are just meant to be, and some things aren't. Like, it's part of living, though. You learn, and that's funny that you say that, because it's true that sometimes when you learn something new and it works, it's like, man, I've been doing it wrong for this long. Like, yeah.
And the thing, like, I haven't done a podcast since I did that 30-minute moto, and it's like, I actually want to tell the average Joe, put a fucking stopwatch on your handlebars and try a 30-minute moto. Like, don't try and do it fast. Just literally go until that time is done and just see what it's like. And maybe you can build up to actually enjoying it. And I mean, I'm lucky in the sense that nowadays, because of jiu-jitsu, I don't get arm pump the way that I used to. So I could see how that would be kind of a barrier to doing it. But just go slow, because like I can get arm pump if I push it, and like I can give myself arm pump. Like I feel like anyone can. But yeah, just put a stopwatch on your bar pad and have a crack. And because, man, I just learned a lot. I forget the thing that I was working on. The one thing that I work on, I noticed from pausing videos of Chase and like watching Chase on YouTube, like in slow motion, fucking full nerd, by the way, is that when he goes from sitting to standing, so he'll be sitting in a turn, he'll put his head forward over the bar pad and it'll be pretty low. And then instead of like the only position that changes is his hips go up and back and his knees slide backwards. So that's how he gets into the standing position. So like he's not so much standing up as he's sitting with his knees back and his ass out, if that makes sense. Yeah, it does. And it's everything with him it just happens so fast and it's so smooth. Like, have you seen what was it? After he broke his collarbone, he came back and he was riding Supercross at the Honda test track, and he posted like a video of him hitting a turn, and there's like a deep rut in the turn, and I was just like, is this like sped up? Because his roll speed is unreal. And like you said, when he goes from standing to sitting, those few things change and it's just in, out, and gone. It's crazy. Yeah, no, it's super cool. But yeah, so I just wanted to say that if you're just an average Joe like me, just try it. Just put a stopwatch on, 30 minutes. Just make it to the end. That's it. I feel, and like you said, the level of respect, just it goes up just that little bit, and just thinking like, man, I gotta do it again. And then even when it gets hotter, you don't have an option. Like the days that the normal person can be like, it's too hot, I don't feel like riding anymore. Well, you know what? For the 450 guys, the gate doesn't drop till 4:00 in the afternoon. So when you're saying I'm done for the day, let's go home, it's like, nah, our day is just getting started. Yeah, man, that's so true. So it's obvious why you went to a 450 for outdoors. Just purely like logistically, because to have a 250 like practice bike that you're putting that amount of motos on in the heat of summer, like I could see why you would want to ride a 450. But I mean, for me, like you can go back on this YouTube channel and you can see 1,000 videos of me saying that the average dude should just get a 350. That's the perfect bike. 450s are too much. But you're a 145 pounder, so you're a featherweight, and you can ride a 450 good for these motos, and you can put that shit in the top 10. What's it like being a small dude riding a 450? It's a lot of bite, I'll tell you that. It can get away from you real quick.
But for me, it for how I ride, it works out. Shoot, I've been riding a 450 since 2015, and when we were doing it on our own, like that was my practice bike. I was on a 450 for a practice bike because it was cheaper. So for me, it comes more It comes more naturally. I just like having that power all the time, because you get into situations where it's just like you want to, like, you know, gas out of it, and the 450 can do that at any time. Or a 250, it's like you kind of hope, you know. No, it's nice. I mean, you kind of get to experiment with starts a little bit if you want to do like a third gear start or a second gear start. I think starts are one of the hardest things for me. Yes, like I get decent starts, but if you're my weight and my size, that 450 can rip away from you so quick. And to be locked into position for that start, you have to do everything right every time. So there's a lot that goes into it, because you can see like bigger guys, they'll do a start and the motor can only wind up so much because the load that's being put on. Or with me, it's like the 450 barely knows I'm on the bike. So it just wants to go. But I feel like I manage it pretty well, and it kind of suits my style. But I would enjoy riding a 250 for outdoors, because I know if I can grind out a 450, because they're not easy to ride, especially in the second 30-minute moto, like where 250, like you hold the bike wide open pretty much the whole moto, where a 450 you kind of have to finesse because you can get whiskey throttle real quick. I mean, I found out.
Yeah.
But no, it's I feel like a 250 would be fun. So I honestly think for next year I'll be 250 for outdoors. I think that's the route that we're going.
Yeah, that was kind of going to be like a follow-up question, is if you're doing this good on a 450, and obviously like the 250 program with Chaparral is solid, you're running the XBR motors, Carson got a whole shot, like your suspension would be the same. Like, would you think that, all right, I've proven that I could be a top 10 dude in the 450 class outdoors, which is stacked, that's got to give you some kind of confidence. Like, do you think that you could be kind of up there in that 250 class?
Absolutely, without a doubt. Because I know what I'm capable of, and it's just like, I know what I'm capable of, I just got to do it. And I've never really been on a solid 250, and the 250s nowadays, dude, they make so much power out of those little things. I'm not gonna say little things, but like they make so much power out of them that it's almost like a 450, because we tend to tame the 450 down in a way. Like 450s can have all this torque, but we kind of like want to get rid of it and move that torque to a certain area in the motor to where we can, you know, stay in third or second gear. So no, it's I believe like a solid top 10 guy all day in the 250 class. And that's just being on a good bike. And I know with Carson, like our 250 is good. The kid proved it. I know you said it earlier, but that start was sick. His front wheel never touched the ground. That was literally the perfect start. And he ran first for like the first 8 or 10 minutes. Like the kid can do it, and the bike can do it. And it's just, time will tell. And it's, I'm excited for everything for next year. And to be on a 250 full time, like that would be cool to like strictly focus on the 250 and not have to worry about like, here 250 Supercross. Okay, I got to do 450 outdoor testing. Like that's a pretty big change. But it's kind of cool how some contracts have worked out for riders nowadays, like Christian Craig. What other rider do you know, like that's at a factory level, is able to go 250 and 450? Think about it.
Yeah, no, it is super cool. And it's got to be cool knowing that new Honda's coming out too. I'm not sure if you've got to ride it yet.
No.
But like I'm close with Jet and Hunter, obviously. And they both said the thing's way better. So, I mean, yeah, pretty solid year to be a Honda 250 guy for if you're going on one in 22.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's like everything happens for a reason. I feel like I'm in a prime spot because the 450 got better, I got better, and it's like, man, if the 450 got that much better, usually if the 450 got that much better, the 250 is just that much better because the 250 always tends to be better than the 450 handling wise. And from what I've heard with the 250 is that thing is it's next level. It's everything that we've been needing out of that bike. And I feel like the amount of progress or the amount of improvement that bike is capable of is way more than the current model.
So last year at Parley, you raced the 21 450. You were the first dude to race it. Do you think that maybe there's a chance that Carson will get to race that new 250? Like, could he be the first guy? Because you guys really have a lot of freedom at Chaparral.
I don't think so because I don't think that we're gonna get the bike soon enough because from what I understand, the very first bike that we're getting goes straight to Chad for development. So I don't think, and also like it's risking it a lot for the team because there's no parts. Like the only thing that we'll be able to do on the bike is suspension and an exhaust. I mean, there's really going to be no motor development. So I'm not saying that the stock bike can't compete at a pro level, but it's definitely risking it more because you don't know what it's capable of until you show up, right? And what's the point of changing the program when you know that our current model works, and then you just in the off season then you build the new model and then show what it's capable of next year.
Yeah, I guess that's one of the cool things about the 450. Like last year at Parley, you just got on a brand new bike. Like that thing didn't even have clamps on it.
No, it had. We were running VP at the time, but it had ECU from Chad, a Yoshimura exhaust, and ODI bars. That was it.
Yeah.
And Enzo did the suspension. And Enzo did the suspension, but are you familiar with all the tracks around in SoCal?
Yeah.
I did my suspension testing at Kahia.
I was literally about to say, did you do your testing at Kahia Creek or something where there's no bumps?
I did. And it was like, yeah, we're good. And then we show up and we're like, might need a little bit more, but we'll just put the rebound in a little bit and off we went.
Yeah, dude, that's gnarly. But I mean, that just goes to show like how good a bike is these days when you can buy a brand new bike on a dealership and you can put it in a top 10 in a national.
Yeah, no, the bikes nowadays, like, they're such a good platform. It's some things are just hard to beat than stock. Like for like racers, me personally, like, I don't know about you, but for brake pads, I love stock brake pads. Other companies make brake pads, but I feel like the stock brake pads are the best, and sometimes stock is the best. And they put all this time and development into the bikes for you to change it for some aftermarket part. Why? If it works, it works.
Man, you know what's like the truth there is I can still go out and ride a 1996 CR250 and it's good and it's stock. It is a 20 plus year old motorcycle that is dead stock and it's just like insanely good.
Yeah, it's hard to beat stock sometimes. Like yes, the brakes have been updated from 96 to the current models.
That's the thing I'd change, yeah. I'd change the brakes. Yeah. I'd change the foot pegs. What else would I do? I'd love to put some clamps on it with like the... you use X-Trig, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you use the... do they have like the rubber mounted clamps for the bars? Like the bar mounts? Yeah. Do you use those?
Well, no. Ours are like threading, so it's like a screw, and then the bar mounts themselves have the rubber. Yeah,
okay. Yep. So that's really like what I'd want to do, because it does vibrate a little bit. But even, man, the crazy thing I noticed going back and riding old bikes is the handlebar position used to be so far back in the clamps themselves, and I actually think that's way better. Like, I'd look at it compared to a modern bike where it's kind of like in line with the forks. And now I just got, for my 350, I just got some of those the Power Parts bar clamps, and it's the same. They're like they screw in and they're hard mounted, but then the actual where you screw down the bars themselves, that's rubber mounted, and I've like rotated them in the backward position so that the bars are as far back as they come. But like that's really all I'd do to that bike is just some clamps, some rubber bar mounts, and some brakes and some good foot pegs, and like that son of a bitch is good to go.
That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to build was it like a 88 or 89 CR 252 stroke.
I've seen you ride that thing.
Yeah, my buddy had one, and dude, the foot pegs on that thing were so dull and so little, and like that's one thing I'd change, that and the brakes. But that motorcycle was so good. I feel like it almost handled better than the current bikes. I don't know why, but it's hard to beat that. Like it's just good. But no, I'm speaking of you, like with the whole like 96 bike, like I'm trying to build an older bike like this winter. Why? Just because. Like I've always been a fan of older Honda 2-strokes and something to go out and play around on. And it's the same thing. It stock is best. Like the thing works, thing's fun. And that's why we ride a motorcycle. It's because it's fun, right?
100%. Man, it's funny that that bike is at some point, like I hope to do like a build video for like the YouTube channel, because I love that shit. And I'm like, dude, do I do like go the stock like what do they call it, like a
like OEM look, or
like an OEM like restoration kind of thing?
Yeah.
Or do I go like resto mod? Because like that MX Tech that sent that suspension, they make a shock. So they make their national shock for that 96. So I'm like, dude, do I want to do a resto back to stock, or do I want to put a kit in this motherfucker? Do I want to put like the best brakes that you can get, some dope foot pegs? Like the motor on those 96s is insanely good, man. Insanely good. That's probably the most enjoyable motor that I've got to ride. But it's like if it had some brakes and some good foot pegs and some really good suspension, I would actually be... I think I'm more curious to see how good I can ride that bike in myself, with like just making it as good, like literally trying to make a factory 96, because there's something about the position that you're in on that bike, and then how narrow it is as well. And it's like, dude, they just turn so sick. Yeah, no, they're awesome. In my opinion, for you trying to decide that, I don't think you're going to go OEM platform. I think you're going to go get the brakes done, do the suspension, do the pegs. And I agree with you. Like, you probably should do that, because if your goal is to make it like an OEM and build the bike so it has like a value to it, you don't ride it. If it's going to go to an OEM platform, don't ride it because it's new. Like, that's what some people that restore bikes and want to keep them, they want them new.
But if you're gonna like, if you want to see what you're capable of on it, build that thing out. I would.
Yeah. All right. That's food for thought. So we're almost running at our 3-hour mark here. There was one thing in the videos that I was watching. I noticed that you spoke a lot about the guys at Boysen. I don't know any of those dudes, but the one thing that I know is that behind guys like yourself, oftentimes there's companies that will just have your back, even if the results aren't there, or if like, so a good example of this would be like Race Tech and Jeff Walker. Like they seem to have such a good relationship, and I'm assuming that they helped out Jeff before, you know, like he was able to do anything back for them. And it sort of seems like from the videos that I've watched, there's some crew at Boysen that have kind of been those people for you. So it's like, how important is it for just a company in motocross to just help a guy? Because, I mean, sometimes like it doesn't make sense business wise to help a guy for a while. But obviously like they kind of saw something in you, and that support that they gave to you, it might not have moved their bottom line, but it like almost makes your career in a way.
Yeah, no, it's huge. Because with everything that we experience, like with business becomes friendship, right? And you got to know how to balance that out. And with Boysen, it started out more as like business than a friendship, but as the business progressed, so did the friendship. And then kind of friendship took over, honestly, somehow. And like, so Eric from Boysen, I still talk to him. I mean, it's not like every day or every week, but it's like at least once a month. But we'll be on the phone for like an hour, just talking about life. Sometimes it's not even about moto. It's about him going mountain biking, or me, you know, riding my e-bike or anything. But no, their involvement was huge for me, because I would have never been able to have the connections to get in with Vital and then Brad Resnick to do the videos for me. And they like paid, they help like pay for that and get my name out there. And obviously like I have always advertised their product because I've been with them since I've been on Super Minis. So Eric, as a business like partner, has been huge for my career to try to get it to the next step, to get my name more relevant in the sport. But at the same time, he's like a really good friend, and he looks out for me. He's helped guide me through this, because with every industry, there's those people that are kind of like not out to get you, but like they want stuff from you, but they're not willing to really return, you know? And Eric like told me about that, and he was like, hey, keep your eye out. I'm not trying to stress you out. I'm not trying to like put things in your head about like these people, but if this happens, don't be shocked. And I was like, okay. And he's always just looked out for me as a friend, not business related, just as a friend. But yeah, no, I think it's really good. Like with Jeff and like Race Tech, that's a great relationship. They're great people. I mean, Jeff's a good dude, and the people at Race Tech are awesome. I remember going in there, like to their home, like the owners of Race Tech, and they opened the doors to me. They're like, hey, like, how are you? They wanted to know all about me. And no, I think it's really good to have a business relationship, but also have a really good friendship. And I feel like that's what companies are starting to see nowadays. I think you get more out of it, because just think, like, would you want somebody to come to you if they always needed something without having any other relationship? Yeah, you get burnt out, because as when they, when their name pops up on your phone, it's like,
they want
what's
something.
he want? They want something.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, let's see what's new. Like, I feel like that's what we need more with these companies, and I think that's starting to happen. And I think that's why the industry has been building, like starting to like build back up for this amount of time.
Yeah, and I think it's just super important to like, I don't know, like pay homage to those kind of people, and there's a lot of times people that like Mike Grondel, dude. Like Mike Grondel pretty much funded Jerry Robbins' outdoor season this year, and it's like there's no return for Mike Grondel on that. But it's just like that's a good person that's trying to help another good person, and oftentimes like you might end up on a factory ride like at some point, and you're not gonna get to run Boysen, but that relationship, like if you don't I guess, like, I don't know, if you never get a chance to like really thank those people, and it's like it can be hard for a company to want to invest in somebody like you at your stage of your career, knowing that like full well he's probably just going to get taken by a factory team or whatever. But it's that they're so important. Like people, like I'm sure there's a point where like they kept you in the game, or like people like those sponsors, they keep you in the game when you're at your lowest point.
And I forgot to say this, but Boysen is one of the main reasons why I'm on this team right now. And it's because Eric was like, hey, ML, this kid, Coty, watch him. This is what he's done, but just wait. Like, he will do it. And ML was like, okay. So at that point, ML knew who Coty Schock was. He heard the name. It just wasn't, just any other dude out there. And obviously ML was like, okay, I'll watch him. ML watched, saw something, and 2 months later, hey, do you want to fill in for this spot? Because Boysen was part of that team. So I think it's crucial for businesses that have relationships with riders, because one, you can bring them to a team, right, and help the brand grow, or you can help the rider get to a point, because you can't get them any further. Like, you kind of maxed out what you could do with them, but you can excel them to something else, and you want to see them grow because you simply just love them for who they are, not because of business, just for who they are.
Yeah, and that was, the way that I was going to bookend this is that you are obviously a good person, and you're obviously a good friend to people that you are friends with, to the point where that leaves an impact and people want to help. And I think that I don't think that this is probably going on too much these days. Like, I think people are probably pretty aware of it, but it's like the days of just like take are done, man. Like, you've got to really done. Like, you need to be a good person for people, and you need to be, like you said, the guy. I know there's a guy over here. He runs like a big distributor brand, and he's a really, really good friend of mine. He's actually the guy that gave me the nickname Gypsy. And man, he would say the same thing, and he's got a couple riders that would always call him, like just to shoot the shit, like just because they were genuinely friends. And then and like I was filming, and he would hook me up with like film jobs and sponsor me and shit like that with money to do film stuff. But he used to say that to me as well, and he'd say like, he's like, man, it's fucking nice to answer the phone and you don't want something. And he's like, everybody fucking wants something. And he's got like a handful of guys that he still sponsors to this day that don't even race, that don't do nothing, because they're just like lifers for him, because they were always like the nicest guy. And I bet when you're like 35 years old and you're like just done racing and you're restoring fucking 86 Hondas, that shit's gonna have Boysen all over it,
Oh yeah. Yeah, you just the loyalty is there, and that's what you need nowadays.
No, totally agree, bro. Well, we just about did 3 hours. I know that Jacob's got some plans. I really appreciate you making this happen. You made it happen a little bit early for us today. Like I said at the start of the show, I'm a huge Coty Schock fan. I'm excited for you, dude. I love seeing the guy where you're at, like the level that you're at in the pecking order of the sport right now. And there's no chip on your shoulder. There's nothing that, there's no negativity around you. It's all positivity. You're all about going forward and progressing. I really hope that if people hadn't heard of you before this podcast and they're just now hearing your name, I hope that they become as big a fans of you as I am. And when I get over there, I'm keen to whip your ass in golf. I don't know what you shoot,
go.
but I'm coming to fuck shit up.
Dude, I'm rocking some clubs that Tony got for like $60, and I'm just, if I hit it straight, cool. If it goes to the water, cool. We're just keep going. It's all about good time.
Well,
but no,
all right. Well,
I appreciate you for being a fan. That's awesome to me. I've watched this channel with all the people that you've had on. It's so cool, and to have this opportunity, I appreciate it. It's an honor. And dude, no, I can't thank you enough for this, and it's awesome.
Nah, man, well, I really appreciate it. Give all the people that you want to shout out a bit of a shout out. Point everybody to anywhere that you want them to go. And this will not be the last time you do this podcast. Hopefully, I'll be stateside at some point here shortly too, and we can do one of these things in person. But give the shout outs.
Shout outs. Dude, honestly, the list can go on forever, but I'll try to keep it short and sweet. But honestly, Tony Archer, for people, I give him a lot of credit. He's the one that changed me. I mean, I wouldn't be here doing what I'm doing without him. My mom and dad for being patient and let me do what I love. ML for seeing something in me about 2 years ago, giving me the chance. All like the little guys from home, my friends, family, just telling me like keep going, like you can do it. Local dealership, Diamond Motorsports, those guys really put a lot out there for me to growing up with bikes and stuff, trying to keep me going. I mean, like the Conal family, they still help me to this day if I ever need anything, like financially or like to get this part or whatnot. Ken and Melissa, I mean, he doesn't do my suspension anymore, but Reese from Pro Action, I mean, it's the journey would have never have been possible if it wasn't for some of those guys. And I mean, like I said, the list goes on and on. Boyson. But no, it's I'll never forget those people. Oh, Solid Performance and Schaefer's Motorsports. They gave me my KTMs when I needed to make a change in my program, and they looked out for me. They took one for the company, and they're the reason why I was able to go out to California, honestly, here for the first time, because I had a practice in a race bike. So thank you to you guys for changing my life. And final one, Kenny Day and Connor Olson. Those are my boys. They're the ones that I moved in with when I first moved to California, so thank you. And just keep this journey going, keep the dream alive, and we'll just keep fighting.
Nah, that's awesome, bro. Well, I appreciate you, man, and I'll be texting you when I'll send you some videos and stuff from this. But keep ripping, bro, and then text me after you do your next 30 and you think about some of that shit that we were talking about. I'd be super interested to hear your thoughts.
Oh yeah, no, will do. I will do.
Appreciate it, bro. All right, cheers.
All right, cheers.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.